dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on and behind the lines, your song.
Gun channels would like to.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come be live every weeknight at midnight Eastern. Everybody else who's live right now is quirking. That's the law. We come to midnight Eastern and we talk about guns for an hour, unlike the other shows that are faking it. They're not even talking about guns. So we're going to flip over here and screen capture, I guess. Get some work done. We also are the hardest working show on the internet, especially at night, because we actually do work. We don't just sit around lollygagging or blabbing and chapping our lips about whatever. This is real work. Let's see. So, I can drop a link out here. Shove this over here. Boom. Like that. Uh-oh. I'll move this over a little bit. Like that. It almost figures out where to go. It almost remembers. All right, so we got some people trying. Oh, I just got to throw the link out here. Throw the link out. So this show is 1,000 episodes in. So don't try to tell us what this show is. The show has been a lot of things over 1,000 episodes. That's many years. We go live every weeknight, rain or shine. We've gone live from something like 19 states. We've gone live with all kinds of production value and exotic dancers and big time sponsorship, and we've gone live on the battlefields and from the trenches. So we've been there and done that. The show is designed to be a conversation, a place for conversation. So that's what we'll continue to do. And drop a link out there, unlike the other shows that I've heard some shows charge you $50 to join the show. Our show, we drop the link out there. If you're an asshole, you ain't getting in. We ain't gonna let you in. But if you want to jump in and be part of the conversation, that's what it's all about. All right, so yeah, I'm sitting there watching one of the Quirkers, and yeah, they're talking about a recipe, right? How to conform to the recipe. And I just want to throw out there, number one, they're conforming to the recipe for the human being who's reading the menu, and that's not our only customer. As a content creator, we have another customer who is the equivalent of Yelp. It's the equivalent of Google Maps. It's the equivalent of the robots that check out what content is being created. And if you appeal only to the human being who reads the menu and you don't build your menu in a format that allows the robots who index the internet, you're wasting your time and you're limiting your stuff. So that's one thing. But if you're building your recipe to conform to what somebody else has done, how often do you try a cake that is a recipe that is better than the original? How often do you try something or how often do you follow a path? How often do you follow directions that take you to somewhere that's unexpected, right? You take directions to a place that's already established. You use a recipe for something somebody already created. Evolution, progress, and the new comes from understanding recipes and then not following recipes. There's a potential that you follow a recipe and fail somewhere along the way, and in your failure, you discover something unexpected. That's it. That's potential. But you're going to limit yourself to similarity at best and potentially, hitting something along the way. I don't know. Anyway, I'll throw that out there. Let's see. So, see who's all jumping in tonight. We got Streamyard joining us. El Pato. That's the anti-Second Amendment Canadian version of GunTube.org. GunTube.org, though, is a pro-gun, pro-2A hosting platform that's better than Pato. The Tube has the chamber, and the chamber's legit. It's American-made, U.S. hosted. Dude took his his Trump money and bought hardware to make the chamber happen. It's just that the Pato gives me this sweet ability to do this, so I keep using the Pato. But there's the Pato trapping in there at the beginning with its snooty monocle, sucking it up and being Canadian, not being as good as GunTube.org. And then we got Erstwhile joining in. Yeah, you sent me this cable, I'll call it a cord, for my robot, and I don't even know how long that is. That is longer than my house, and I think I could go one end of my house and then back around to the other end of my house. I only needed a cable that was slightly longer than a regular cable, I guess. And yeah, that one is definitely going to be longer. So thanks for the cord. You also threw me some cash in there. Thank you for that very much. And some more robot fingers. So yeah, just got hot again today. But I'm chomping at the bit to try to figure out how to make that happen. The thing is, I haven't used that laptop in forever. So it's not like I need it. Like I could totally use that laptop for that, I think. So thanks for that. Yeah, that got here the other day. Oh, we already did the mail call Monday opening and recorded it and uploaded it, but I don't remember when it's going live. I record them in batches and then I post them usually on Sundays, I guess, is when I usually do video. And then however many videos I get made, I'll post them. And if I post like if I do, I think I did 4 Mailbox Mondays in a row, and then 2 with yours, like 2 other ones with one other one with yours. So I think I went in there, I know I went in there and I moved one of those 4 out of the way. So I don't remember which videos, but I remember I had 4 and they were kind of in a row. So to chop them up, I mixed in the one with yours, but I don't remember if it's the next one or if it's going to be in like middle of July or something. That's why it's fun for everybody, because I don't remember filming them half the time. I definitely don't remember editing, because I film them whenever, right? And then I take the videos off my phone and put them on the computer, and then once or twice on a Sunday, I'll edit video, and I totally forget that I even made the videos that I'm editing, and then I forget that I edited them. Or, I mean, I kind of have some idea that the videos exist, but I just don't remember which order or which ones, especially if it's a quick 3-minute video. And then I post them and I completely forget. And then I'll be sitting here minding my business, and then the video will pop up and I'll go, oh, I guess I did get that one. But I don't keep track of videos anymore. When you have, I don't know, 5,000 videos on the one channel, I don't keep track of videos. I do them in groups of 5 or 6, and I try to make them at least kind of okay, but I don't really worry about quality. I'm certainly not following any recipe. Let's see, DTP is out there. Some of the Patreons out there have seen some specific Patreon posts going up. Reminding me of that. Got Pants out there. Does Clover think he can go live whenever he wants? Yeah, he's a quirker. He don't care. He quirks. He brings a bunch of people in now. That's his scam. As he brings a bunch of people in, he figures like, oh, it's not really quirking if I got like 8 people in there, but it's quirking. Those are just accomplice quirkers. Let's see, going to the have to report just working. I don't know. Karen will take care of that for us. It is sad though. Yankee. Yeah, so Yankee is up in Seattle trying to. Whoa, what's going on here? What the hell? Oh, my goodness. What am I looking for anyway? Oh, I was looking for Yankee over here. Oh, I should hit subscriptions probably. Is he live? He was live. He knows to get the hell off of my time slot. What the hell? He said something about going down there, though. So, yeah, Yankee went over to Seattle, and he's checking out the situation or whatever. Maybe I should send him a link. I'll send him a link in an email. See if he wants to jump in. Here. I'll just reply to this other one. Let's see. I wish I could just talk into my phone. If you are walking around oh, all right. my link, or I'm not sending him his own link right back? Yeah, okay. All right. I think he said something about, I didn't watch his whole show, but he said something about going back down there tonight to see what it was like at night. But he went down during the day, I guess, and said it was more like what was he calling it? Like a flea market, not flea market, like an open air market or like a weekend market or something. He said it was mostly just a bunch of people with little pop-up tents or shade tents that were selling stuff, just, you know, homemade wares or whatever, people selling food and that. And then people chatting or chanting, what's the word? Standing on soapboxes and saying stuff, you know, chanting or whatever, talking. So, yeah, interesting. So we are definitely getting a lot of opinion about it, or a lot of, I don't know if the word is snide, but a lot of like offhand conjecture. I don't know what the fucking words are, but, you know, a lot of people who suggest they know what's going on there dismiss it. And I'm willing to dismiss it. I think Yankee will agree that the message they have there is a little tweaked, a little weird. Nobody's really about their message that I'm aware of, but Yankee's adamant about their right to have a message. And I suspect he's even, I don't know what the word is. He's interested in the reason that they're doing it, or not the reason, the way that they're doing it, I guess. So I don't think he wants to condone anything illegal, but at the same time, when things need to be done, voices need to be heard, or whatever the word would be. Anyway, he's interesting. He's out there watching, experiencing it, and then turning his camera on and reporting it the way he would do, right? He's Yankee. But just meaning, you know, he's going to be, you know, raw, and he's going to do what he wants to do. He's going to voice his opinion. He's not going to be polite about it or try to sugarcoat nothing, really. But that's a pretty valid contribution, right, to the mix. Love him or hate him, he's standing there doing it. And a lot of people who are putting in 2 cents in aren't there. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not there either. Nobody's there. Not very many people are there. But he's able to get up there. It took him like 4 hours to drive up there. He's not right there. But he's close enough, and he's got the intent. He's got the interest and the ability, and he's doing it, which is pretty cool. We had people that were at Bundy. Haas was at Bundy. Yankee was at Bundy. So we knew what was happening. I knew what was happening at Bundy from behind the scenes, quote unquote. You know, I could call them and ask them what was really happening. I didn't have to depend on any kind of looking through a camera or looking through somebody's camera. I appreciate having Yankee there so we can see what it's like. I got my ass to the 2A rally so that we could see what it was like for real there and not have to interpret it through somebody else's cameras or lenses. So, yeah, anyway, we'll be watching with what he does over there. Let's see if he's going live again. If he's down in the street going live by himself, he probably won't jump in here, but if he does, he will. Or if he is, he will, whatever. So that was Yankee doing his thing. And then what the hell else happened today? What's today, Thursday? I feel like I was watching something else today. I guess I gotta look at my history. Interesting thing about F1 sponsorships. It was pretty interesting. I guess I wasn't looking at anything. I had no idea that them F1 Formula One racers were such a big deal. What the hell? There's only 3 people out here? Is it that boring today? Oh, talking about Yankee. I'm getting the hell out of here. Let's see. Exotic dancers. Yep. I wish I could have gotten an NA revolver instead of this Derringer knockoff. Which Derringer knockoff? That's good. I bet you figure out a way to make some decent money on the robot. Next thing you could have a big robot. I don't know if I'll make money on it. I don't know. I mean, I've got a couple of ideas. I have to get more, what's the word, like familiar with it, handy with it, and see what it can do. Right now, it's a little, I could never get it to be a good, it couldn't return to where it started smoothly. Like I couldn't get a good smooth, what's the word, like plain on it. Like it always had a little screwiness to it. So then instead of fighting that, or I figured out that I wasn't going to be able to get it there, at least not without spending a lot of time tweaking it. So then I quit because I basically had a wooden floor on the whole thing that I got with the robot. And it's a decent heavy piece of wood, but it was warped. It was wood, and it was that shitty press wood made out of sawdust. So it literally had warp in all different directions. It didn't warp with any kind of grain or anything. It just warped randomly all over. So I needed to put in a planing bit or just a big wide flat bit and tell the robot to just run the whole table. And that would just take a long time. So I think I told the robot to run the table, and it did, but it only hit like the high points. So I never really got down to where it really ate the whole table out and got me a nice flat piece of, ate away the warped part of the board and gave me a nice flat piece of board again. So I knew I was never going to have a nice flat plane to work from. So I quit trying to do that kind of work. I just did more sloppy type of stuff just to keep working on how to get the robot to work. Because I also got to figure out how to work the robot, right? How to keep the thing moving back and forth and not breaking. The little wires and the vacuum and just all kinds of little shit. You just, I got to figure out how all the stuff works, what's fragile, what ain't, what works good, what doesn't. Just the order you plug stuff in. You had to plug in the power to the robot and then the power to the computer, power up the software, then plug in the USB cord. If you didn't do it in that order, so that took a certain amount of time. Anyway, so it was all that. And then I got the big piece of surface, the flat surface. A guy I stole the dog off of gave me a big piece of plastic. He was just giving it to me so I could cut it up and use it as plastic. But it turns out it was a big enough piece of plastic to be the table. So instead of having to screw with the piece of wood, I've got a nice flat table now. Plus it's heavy. So I did enough tests with it when I got that piece to know that eliminated a whole problem I had. Now I could start using the robot a little more detailed. And that's when you sent me those first bits. I just haven't been able to screw with it since. So I think I'm in a pretty good place. It's just I have to catch up with where I was and then get back to doing all that. But it's seriously, it's like 86 degrees in the house right now. I think it's 91 outside. It'll be down to 70 by 4 a.m. So that's when I'll go outside and walk around and do my thing. And then by the time I come back in, it'll be 6. And that's still too early in the morning to turn on the robot. The robot is basically a bunch of servo motors that move around a router. So that router basically sounds like if you stepped on R2-D2's nuts, except it never stops. It's just bing, just a high-pitched whine that you probably get. I could do it at 9 a.m., but if I started doing that before 9 a.m., neighbors would start yelling at my grass being too long or the garbage being out too long or whatever, it'd start pissing off neighbors. So I don't know if I'll ever make money on it. I have to first, I guess what I was getting at is I have to first figure out how to use the dang thing good. And then once I figure out how to use the dang thing good, as far as I can tell, everything you do with like detail takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I think Instagram is my new favorite social. I'm surprised how easy it is to get followers on there. Well, that's interesting. So Instagram is awesome. I don't disagree. But it's not perfect. It's anti-gun and it's run by Facebook. Facebook is one of the most horrible, if not the most horrible social platform. So Instagram is not ideal. Instagram will shut your channel down without even thinking about it. It's possible to get channels back. So it's not the worst platform. It's why I invest time in it. You can have multiple channels and work with the interface. The double-edged sword is that you can't screw with Instagram too much. I can't create an app, for example, that'll siphon things off of my pre-existing websites and schedule them to load into Instagram. I can do that with Facebook. I can go to one of my websites. I could technically go to anybody's website if I wanted to, but I could go to an existing website that has pictures and blog posts or anything really, and I can tell a thing like a contraption on the internet, take some pictures from this website and then post them on Facebook for me. And I want you to take them from this part of the website with this filter or with this qualification. I want you to do it at this schedule, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. And then I want you to put them in this Facebook, and I want you to post them in this group or in this page or, with this text. So I can create that robot. I can create that mechanism, and then I can sit back. And now I can just, let's say, go to eBay, and I can look for books or straw hats or banana hammocks, and I can throw that stuff into my website, right? And then my mechanism is going to just periodically siphon stuff off like one of them robot chickens. And it's just going to keep pecking. It's just going to keep taking content from my websites and shoving it over to Facebook. And that's why Facebook looks like, the accumulation of like 1,000, scam letters. It's just like a big email scam that's been ripped apart and posted back together with Post-it notes. And Facebook is the biggest embarrassment scam of information vomit I've ever seen. And it's because people can totally game it. And I can go to Facebook and I can create little AIs that will start to listen to everything a group of people does. Let's say you like this kind of dog and you like this kind of coffee and you shop on Thursdays. I can pay Facebook to make a little AI that'll know so much about you that I'll sell you a yellow shoe as soon as you think about buying a yellow shoe. Instagram has some of that, but not so much of that. So anyway, those are the problems I have with those sites, is that you can manipulate them like that. Fuck a site that's going to allow that kind of shit, or basically be built around that. It's one of them cheap Cobras. Yeah, you can fan a Cobra. It's a Remington style, like this guy right there. So from 1866. But you can hold down the trigger and fan it, bam, bam, and slap 2 rounds out of there. So it's not the worst thing in the world. And even though they're Zamek, Davis's work pretty good. I guess it's a Cobra, so it's Davis turned into Cobra. But yeah, they're not the same thing. But if it's in 38, it's kind of neat. I like them. You get 38 snake shells and put them in there. Yeah, well, it prefers to be called a robot, but some people call them CNC routers. There's Walt. Yeah, I don't really send out links. I probably should again. But yeah, I'd sent out, anytime you want to jump in, I'll keep throwing links out. I just throw the links out in the comments here. But Walt joined us last Friday. I still need to go in. I plan on going in and taking that 5-hour chat when I'm working on something like this and just play it. And then whenever I get to a chunk that's good, I'll snip the chunk out and post that as a separate video. So we ended up chatting for 5 hours about all kinds of interesting topics the other couple weeks ago. But again, thanks for the $5. Appreciate it. It's actually going to go right back to Liberal Gun Club. I saw over on Instagram today. What was that guy's name? Can I find him on here? It won't really show me stuff I've already looked at, I think. Defund the police. I don't know what that's all about. So some kid got in trouble for having a BB gun on his wall while he was in virtual school. They said having a BB gun on your wall in virtual school is the same as having a gun in school. So that's something somebody can get all mad about. All right, how am I going to remember what the dang guy's name is? It's something. It's not SD gun owners. It is. Oh, I've looked at a lot of these pictures, so maybe there it is. So I seen this patch right here, Gun Culture. That's the guy. So I go, hey, where do I get that patch? And he goes, oh, go over to their site, right? Oh no, wait, that's his site. He says, go over to their site. I guess I have to click on comments. There. He goes, go over to their site. So I go over to their site. They got nothing on their website, of course, except for this thing over here somewhere that says we shut down our store. So I'm like, oh, maybe they shut down their store. But then you go over to their website. And after we talked, I didn't know they had a website. I thought they just were on Reddit. But looking in here, you can click on donations and get to the cart, kind of. You can put in stuff like this, and I'm guessing that goes to the cart, because if you go to the cart, you say continue shopping, it just doesn't take you anywhere. So they have a library, but that's an Amazon affiliate link system. So it's just taking you to a place where you can buy Amazon stuff. But even if, if they stuck it on that same page, they didn't, because it just goes down to nothing. So thanks for that super chat. Eventually that'll come through. I think right now we're up to about $19 on this channel. Well, on this is the big channel, so that'll be $19. So you can see how the super chat works. I think we're allowed to show this stuff now. So last 28 days, I'm up to $20 on this channel. That super chat will come in here. What was it, $5? Will come in here and take this to $25. And then in 4 months, if assuming I keep on that consistent going, then I'll get past the $100 threshold, and they'll send me $100, and then that'll go into the pile. And then at that point, I'm hoping I already have that patch, and then that $5 will end up eventually going right back into that patch. So thanks for buying me that patch. Get Hootsuite. You can manage scheduling posts that way for Instagram. Interesting. Instagram doesn't have an API for that. So how would Hootsuite do that? Is that one of them deals where you're paying somebody in some country that costs $2 an hour to do it for you? You can do that. That's about the only thing you can do on Instagram that I know of, is to hire somebody, usually that doesn't speak the same language as they're typing in, to basically just wake up and type something for you that you told them to. Problem with that is you're giving them access to your site. You're giving them your credentials, and they're technically a bunch of human beings with your credentials. So let's see what this is all about. I think I've heard of Hootsuite before, but I've never used it. $29 a month. It's immediately out of my price range. They can tell you what it does. Most strategic social media partner for whatever. Automated post scheduling, key performance metrics, ad spend limit of $500 a month to post whatever. So ad spend limit of $2,000. So they got some kind of ads that they can run. Doesn't really talk about how it works. This is just going to want me to pay. Yeah. I could go to, what is Hootsuite, probably. Oh, here we go. Trustworthy. That's all that really matters. Is it safe? No adware. It's a reputable platform. Excellent training and services. That's on Reddit, so it's probably all right. Can you use it for free? Let's have a free plan. You get 3 social channels, and you can post up to 30 and have only 1 user. So it looks like you can use it for free. It's from Canada, so that happened. There you go. Founded in 2008. Here we go. So Hootsuite is a social media management platform created by this guy. System user interface takes the form of a dashboard and supports social network integrations for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Right on. So, I don't know. Maybe they've got something going. So is Hootsuite approved by Instagram? In the last week of January, Hootsuite released an update so that it's fully integrated with Instagram. Instagram, there's blah, blah, blah. Hootsuite will post without anyone having to take further action. Oh, okay. So it's been a while since I looked at stuff, so it's possible that they changed things, or I don't know what I'm talking about, or that this is just you're paying a system to have a dude log into your Instagram and type it. But I don't have $20, so I'm not going to do it. But that's interesting, and it might be useful for projects that you don't have, staff. So $20 is a lot easier than hiring somebody. 10 social profiles. You can get a 30-day trial. You get a trial. And then I wonder if they have a buy it by the year type of plan. But thanks for the info. Let's see. So that's at $5. Cycle Camp is sniping comments out here. What's going on? Do I get out there again? Go to here and here. By the year type of plan. We got some kind of crazy looters out here. Walt Anderson. Yeah, Cycle Camp. Walt is a good dude. I don't know what's happening, or if that's like a butt dial. I've seen people butt dial that before, like delete people when they weren't aware of it, like they were in their phones in their pocket deleting people. Oh, there's Walt.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, not too much. I'm just basically clicking on the conversations right now, but I was just going to work on this art here a little bit. But, I don't know how far I am in here. I kind of went backwards a little bit. Not just comments, but super chats. Did he delete a super chat too? Sorry about that. I don't know what. Cycle Camp is one of the hosts, so he's either accidentally doing that or he doesn't understand. Like maybe he misinterpreted something out there. I don't know what's happening with that. Oh, there's Biker Bob. Got the link out there if anybody wants to jump in. See, and I don't know a lot about routers, but I can help you with the CAD cam site. Router. Oh, you mean the router like the machine at the end? That's just my motor. So yours has some sort of a machine head with the bits that go in and out. You know, I don't have the fancy thing that switches my bits in and out. A separate robot for that. I got to take a wrench over there. But a router is just a motor with a bit on the end that normally you'd use it on the edge of a piece of wood to make like a cabinet. What's the word? Like an edge, you know, on the edge of a piece of wood for a cabinet or a counter or something where you just want a, you know, finished edge instead of just a cut, you know, piece of a saw cut or whatever. So it's just an orbital. Is that the word? No. I can't think of the word, but it's just a spinning shaft. It's just that the way these DIY robots work is they put one of those on the 3-axis, left, right, and up and down. And then the one I have is a really strong chassis. So the left, right, and up and down is pretty strong. And it can handle, it's not a huge router, but it's a decent sized, medium sized router. Loud enough, a router that's big enough to be loud. Let's see. And then you're saying $29 a month. We'll chat about there here in a second.
Yeah, that was what I found was like $29 a month. But if I didn't see the free option, which would have been good to know.
Limited, but yeah, if you can go from the free plan to the free option, then see, I've tried. I thought you were going to say something else. Let me finish this off though. 18 or 817, I guess. $1.99. So thanks for that, I guess. I don't know how the super stickers work. You don't really see it on this side, but it looked like it was an avocado in the hand.
Yeah, they've got like some cool like sticker options in the chat, so you can choose different emotes and whatever, and they get kind of like the more you spend, the crazier they get. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'll flip over here again. Let me just finish this. Did you see that block I was working on today? Yeah, that was insane. I ended up dropping it on the floor. Holy moly. 4,000 pounds of aluminum? I don't know how you were getting sparks off aluminum, though. And then he accidentally hit him, which deleted the comment. Okay. So then going back over to my, this is the big channel's YouTube, or the big YouTube channel's dashboard. So I can go into monetization, right? And then once you're big, or I don't know how it is. I don't know if it's from being big or if it's from making money or what it is, but you get, you know, you get like levels once you get into YouTube and start getting larger. So whenever they gave me memberships, I started setting it up and I never did, but because I didn't get it at first. Like I had channel strikes and they wouldn't give me my membership status because I had channel strikes, and I had like a shit ton of channel strikes because they kept channel striking me for putting gun stuff up. They were giving me channel strikes for putting up gun stuff in 2012. In 2019, or it wasn't that late, maybe 2017, I was getting channel strikes from videos that were on YouTube for 5 years. So I was just like, what am I going to do? Like, It's nothing I didn't bother challenging it. I just dealt with it because I didn't really care. But then one day they turned it on for some reason. Like, YouTube isn't consistent. So just boom, one day I can use my membership. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to go explore this. So you can set it up, and it's kind of like Patreon. They're basically trying to mimic Patreon, right? So you can set it up, and you have to set up different things so that you can get to the next level. And then I just never initiated it. But one of the things I was going to show you is once you set up your perks, then you can set up these badges. So I'm wondering if I turn this all on, this would let you, instead of doing like the avocado waving his hand around, it would let you throw a chairs against the wall on there, or the little daily gun show icon, or the
Oh, that'd be
pancake.
really cool. I think it will.
I think that because I've seen that on the game channels and other shit that I've watched that uses their shit more. It's shit that I got to turn on all this. I don't think you got to be a member to do it, but I think it'll activate, because I don't get my own super chat button, but I think it would activate this stuff because it's designed to incentivize super chats, right? So anyway, that is kind of neat. So that's one of those things, if you're doing this stuff, I don't know who I'm talking to here, but like Yankee or something, if he bothered, he could set this up and then have his own little Kool-Aid guy or something, so that when somebody sent him a sticker, every time Yankee sees a little avocado, he's always like, why do you think an avocado? But anyway, so thanks for the $1.99. I do appreciate it. I know a lot of people get that kind of super chats, and I don't mean shit, dude. That's like drinking for a day. Like I drink coffee and nut milk, so that's like literally everything I'm gonna drink, and I appreciate that. It's like 109 here, so I definitely like drinking stuff. So I definitely appreciate the money. Anyhow, so you just jumped in and you were talking about Hootsuite. I had always thought that the deal with Instagram was that their API was so restricted. I was kind of describing how these other systems let you schedule, and that's how they're kind of vulnerable. And Instagram, because they've kept it so that you can't schedule, it's kept Instagram kind of, I don't know what the word is, it's raw. It's not, you can't just set up a bunch of fluff and it just distributes to Instagram. Now, if that's changing, I suspect Instagram will start to suck, because if I know I can schedule, then I'm not going to bother Instagramming every day. I'm just going to schedule Instagram once a month.
Yeah.
And get the same return,
Yeah, and that's what we do. My company that I work at, my private job, right? With that one, we use tools like that. So we have a lot of tools that just kind of assist with that. It's the same with marketing emails, right? Like you want to, if you can, when you're trying to do the mass reach out, if you have the funds for it, you totally want to leverage these tools to just make that work easier, especially if you have a small staff or if you're trying to do it by yourself. So like Hootsuite and like Act On and stuff like that. Like if you want to be blasting people out with that, there's mass text services too. A lot of type of stuff that you can use for campaign management and just things of that nature for mass communication. And they're relatively cost effective when you look at it in bulk. You just have to have the money to enter that kind of bulk communication game, because then your impressions are, you're paying like 1 penny, 2 pennies per impression. Whereas, if you're doing stuff organically, it's very time intensive or very production heavy, right? If you got the right mass communication mediums in place, it gets very, very cheap to start talking with people, initiate some conversations. So it just kind of depends on what you got in the budget, ultimately, how much time you got.
So you've used the Hootsuite thing then for Instagram?
Oh yeah, I 100% vouch for it. We use it at my job all the time. So we use it especially for like managing comments. So because I deal with customers that are happy or very angry. My job is to just make sure everyone's having a good time. So when we get those comments on social media, they're actually able to refer them over to me with Hootsuite, and then I'm able to go in and address them, look up their file, and do the customer service side of stuff and give them kind of a quality of care that they wouldn't get otherwise through social. So we use it to kind of maintain accountability on that too. You can assign tasks to your teams and stuff. So there's some pretty cool features for corporations. For if you're kind of the solo operation, the post scheduling stuff, being able to actually schedule on Instagram is nice. Like, one thing that actually threw me off with Instagram was like you couldn't do the Instagram TV from a desktop for the longest time. Like I was having to tell my Chrome browser that it was a mobile browser in order to get to Instagram TV. It was weird.
Well, yeah, because again, Instagram's kind of purpose or focus or whatever you want to call it, like their thing to be separate or different was that, we're going to be phone centric. So you could barely look at Instagram originally. I was all excited because we could see Instagram live now on a computer, because now I can go in. What do I do? Click on this, and if somebody was live right now, I could watch them, and that wasn't immediate. That you could watch the results after they were live, but they didn't ever ported it out. So well, the question I was going to ask is, as far as like comments and stuff, on especially on any other platform, really, all the other platforms have these APIs, which is just think of it as if you turn a television set around, it's those plugs on the back, right? Like sometimes you're going to have the round plugs, the RCAs. Sometimes you're going to have, some proprietary thing from Sony that plugs into another Sony DVD player or something special. Sometimes you're going to have a USB or something that's kind of more standard nowadays. So that's what APIs are for websites and for things like eBay or YouTube and stuff. So something like eBay, if they want to have APIs for eBay, you might want to pull all the skateboard ads out of eBay, or not ads, auctions out of eBay. You might want to pull like all the results of auctions that ended about skateboards, so that you could put up a website that tells you about like how to forecast the cost of your skateboard. So I'm going to use eBay will never let you do this. I'm just making the shit up out of my head. But if eBay would let you, if they were crazy, they would let you pull all their data and use it on your website via these APIs. Well, Instagram was like, hell no, we want people to go to Instagram. We don't want to make it convenient for you to suck all the stuff out of Instagram and put it where you want. We want you to go to Instagram. So it's convenient for you to link to Instagram, and that's it. So that's why, like I say, Instagram's kind of an interesting platform because of that, because you couldn't just automate filth to fill it with garbage. And that's what you can do with Facebook, and you can do that with YouTube. And what happens is now I can literally go to Facebook. I could go to YouTube right now. I'm screen sharing. I could go to YouTube right now, just plain old YouTube. And I can type in, name a breed of dog. I'm going to type in Boston Terrier because I like that. I'll type in Boston Terrier, and it says puppies barking funny. And that's not just saying that because it's got nothing else better to do. It's saying that because, well, a little bit of it is because of what I've searched for, and it knows what I've searched for. But most of this is because these are what other people have searched for. These are the most common things that somebody types in here. So if I type in here, Boston Terrier funny, right? Now I know that that's going to have a certain amount of things. And if I did a couple of little tricks here, I could find out that this gets maybe a zillion things. And now here's this little funny picture, and then I make a cartoon of it, and then I make it into a t-shirt like one of these. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what this whole scam is about, is like how to put something in front of you that makes you want to buy it. And then I buy a little API, little AI nugget off of Facebook, and I say, go find everybody who's ever thought about funny Boston Terrier stuff and shove my set of checks at them. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's all about. And that's where Instagram doesn't allow all that, so that you don't end up with all this crap. So now you can just go to Instagram. You used to be able to just go to Instagram, and it's like, there's your friend's pictures. And oh, here's a picture that, since you like your friend's pictures that your friends likes, you might like this picture. That was about as much bugging you as it did. If Instagram allows you to just like start shoving this stuff in here, so that, every other thing is like, here's something you might like, here's something you might like, it's just going to be less appealing. As far as like the way the platform is now, it'll turn into a different type of platform.
Yeah, and they work kind of similarly to Facebook with their targeting, although I do think they have some different, like there's some similarities, but there's also some differences with using Instagram targeting. I haven't run too many Instagram ads. I've ran more than a few Facebook, so I can speak more to that system. Like, and I've ran Google as well. And yeah, the level of analytics you get off of those campaigns and who you can target and everything, it's insane how detailed you can get.
Right. And that's how, what's crazy is we're doing it for like, buy a pair of yellow shoes instead of blue shoes. But if you're like, I want to find the Republican voters, or I want to find the Democratic voters or whatever, who knows what kind of craziness they're doing, right?
Yeah, and it's fascinating because it's pretty straightforward. Like with working them too. And Google now, if you're a small business and you're coming in, like they pair you with an actual expert at Google now. And basically, as long as you have a minimum spend every month, they'll keep you an expert working with you for like 6 months, and they'll just carry over and do all kinds of stuff for you. So like if you want to get to know platforms well and you have the money for it, even if you're just starting out, like you can get the plug at Google now.
Hey guys,
Hey, James, for jumping in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I jumped in because I know everything about this subject you're talking about from behind the scenes since I used to work at Facebook and Instagram designing this stuff.
right on. So then for a long time, it was like, so I think I got APIs down so that people can keep up with what we're talking about.
Yeah,
For a while
but
there, because of that, the only thing you could do with Instagram was basically go schedule on some website, like, here's what I'd like to do. And then that website would go, no problem. We're going to charge you, it's a couple of bucks. And then, let's say on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, you wanted something to happen. They literally had a human being log onto your Instagram and do that at 2 p.m. on Tuesday. And so you could
right.
effectively get it done, but it was taken, there's literally a human being involved. Am I
Can I?
misunderstanding that, or has that changed, or what?
You're misunderstanding it. You can always schedule. The APIs have always been there. Later's been around for a few years. Um,
Well, no,
and
I'm
even Instagram
talking.
API.
I am talking like the beginning Instagram more. So I haven't tried to
Well,
do this stuff in the last couple of years.
well, no, I mean, the APIs, Instagram has always been there. Facebook took them over within the first year, and that the APIs are already there. Um, just not a lot of companies built APIs to automatically post. When Facebook took it over, it grew, and more people use the APIs to build. But the myth that companies used to have someone log into the Instagram and post it is totally false. It's since the beginning of Instagram, there's been APIs to do it. It's just a lot of companies didn't do it.
Well, and then they change the APIs every 15 minutes. So you'd have like some kind of a system and then it would die. So I know what you mean. Like there would be auto systems, but they would last for a month or 2 months if you're lucky. Sometimes even the paid ones would be 2 months later, they wouldn't work anymore. You'd have to find a new one. And I figured that was, again, part of their scheme to, or their overall plan to keep the platform from being populated by a bunch of
well,
automated stuff.
there's I mean, scheduled posting has always been allowed, and the APIs have always allowed it. What they changed a lot of is they're set time out. So let's say that you use like later, for example. I'm not plugging them or anything, but that's just probably the biggest one. Let's say you use later. What Instagram did is they have the APIs time out for users' accounts. So in case you stopped logging into later and using later as a service, that later, like 2 years down the road, still wouldn't have access to your account. But that's why you're always required to like log in to like re-authenticate. You generate a new token for the API.
Oh, okay. Because I got that with if then this that or whatever. That one constantly is unhooking, and I guess that makes sense if they just don't want to have like stagnant auto things happening. That's like another way of minimizing the amount of clutter that builds up, right?
Well, it's not clutter. It's more for like security. Let's say that there's a breach at later. Yeah, so a hacker will be able to breach it, and let's say later doesn't patch it, and they can still use the API to post to Instagram over and over and over again. So it's just to protect accounts.
I've seen that. Yeah, I saw what you're talking about. We use another service called review trackers. So that way, like, I can respond to reviews and everything across just various social platforms. So like Better Business Bureau or Yelp or whatever. And it just kind of sucks everything into one place. And both Google and Facebook, I think I have to log in every 30 days or 28 days or whatever. That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Instagram's been like that. Just the popularity of auto post over schedule and schedule post in Instagram hasn't been as popular but it's always been there. And for the advertising backbone, the platform, where people buy and sell advertising, and the algorithms that pull data on Instagram and Facebook are identical. They're just displayed to you in a different way. I'm glad I can talk about this since I left Facebook.
Yeah, we generally know the.
I spend my day running away from developers, so. So I can dig it though. Like there is, it's so great to have people that understand the tech and are able to like articulate it. I think that's like, for me, like in my experience working with developers, it's always been like if you can get the ones that understand like how to articulate what's going on, because sometimes that code can get nasty and complex and it can be difficult to kind of share with the layman. So just like being able to is, I love that.
It's like speaking in some language and then speaking another language that's a different format, or like music and math, or like, it's like semaphore and, Swahili or something. Like there's going to be, you got a mindset when you're thinking code or you're thinking whatever it's called, like logically or whatever, to like, how the software is thinking, or, all that. So the people that excel in that kind of stuff, often just they don't excel also in talking to other human beings, the same way or as effectively or whatever. At least that's what I've found working with tech people, is that when you get the people that are like super good at tech, that, sometimes they're just really good at tech because that's their forte, and they're not good at, not interested, not good, not eager to explain what they're doing in regular terms or whatever.
Well, here's the thing. I agree with you to a point about that, but there's a lot of people in tech that could explain it if they wanted to, but it's not that they can't, it's just that they don't want to. So they perpetuate the stereotype that they can't because they can only think in a certain way, just because they don't want to be bugged by people.
I have seen that, and yes, that is very real. Our developers, like because our work, right, like we have an open office, so it's very easy for them to get distracted, right? Because they wind up having their own office where they're all kind of together, and it's still not, not amazing for privacy or focus even for them, and the all these different department heads are coming in and asking them to update, software and stuff. And it can definitely be like a hectic thing for their workday, dealing with just constant interruption while they're trying to focus on this stuff. It can be frustrating. Totally get it.
Yeah. So a lot of people in tech will pretend like they can't communicate what they're doing.
Well, if it's anything, I mean, I've seen enough of these either documentaries or dramas of, companies evolving or stuff being created or whatever, the stories of like Apple or something like that. And my experience at AOL, and I guess Microsoft a little bit, was that again, there's the people that are there to build and keep it working, and then there's the management people that are there, but they never got the tech stuff. They knew they weren't gonna, and they went to the management side. And as soon as you get to like a certain level, I don't know if it's like this, I'm assuming it's like this everywhere, you get to that level where the management people can't keep up with the tech anymore, and the tech people figured it out. Like I don't know if you want to call it gaming it, but they kind of got it figured out. They know what the parameters are, and they just are there. And like you say, they know what they need to do to keep everything going. And the management people kind of know, and they don't, it's kind of like an unspoken thing, but they don't speak the same language. And the tech people, if the management people wanted something to be accomplished, the tech people would kind of look at each other and be like, yeah, I guess we can do that, but they didn't try to explain to the management side how they were going to do it or anything.
Well, another thing you got to realize is when you explain tech to another tech guy, I can explain it to, let's say I got to tell them about a project. And it's going to take me 5 minutes to explain to another tech guy what the project is. that same 5 minutes that it will take me to explain to another tech guy to a non-technical person, it's probably going to take about an hour because I'm going to have to break it down a little bit and build up the person to be able to understand how I'm doing it or what I'm doing.
Right. And they're still not going to necessarily understand the significance or like the implications half the time. Like, I need to do this and this. And they're like, okay, great. And then you're like, that's going to take a month. Like, what? You just said you're going to need this and this. Like, because they're not figuring it all out.
Yeah, like when I give a high level overview to another tech guy, it's a high level overview, but it's like basic because I've been doing this stuff since the 90s. But if I give it to like a managerial person with no tech, my high level overview is going to sound like like Klingon to him.
All right. Well, I'm going to suggest this since I've had this conversation a bunch of times too. We all have, just because, like you say, this is just the conversation anybody's going to have. Mechanics have the same conversation talking to each other. Gunsmiths would, right? So, how do we take this kind of situation that we've got in business or in tech over the years and apply it to 2A? Walt and I don't know if you were listening at all to that 5-hour chat, but at one point in there, I was bringing up the concept of like, is there a way to get people in 2A together who have like, the ability of the interest in wargaming and then backwards engineer this thing? Like, we want no NFA. So in a world where there's no NFA, how did we get there? And how do we create the steps, to get to that from today? Like, is that something that can be done? Is it worth it? How do you do it?
And the thing is, in tech, right, you always hear reverse engineer. You see that in movies and in TV and and all those different things. You see, oh, reverse engineer, especially like in like UFO documentaries where they talk about like, oh, they reverse engineered a spacecraft. Uh, Reverse engineering is some of the most difficult, expensive things that you can do in tech. It's very difficult to reverse
Well,
engineer.
the wrong word. Then, the idea though is to go backwards, to figure out what goal we want and figure out working backwards how to get to it instead of just because right now what we've got is a bunch of randomness and repetitiveness. And what's frustrating to me, and I'm trying to figure out how I can use my experience and my Rolodex and whatever ear I can bend with people to whisper every once in a while, you're doing this again. Like, this has been done 3 times. Can I show you where 2 other people did it? So if you want, you can at least figure out, that other people have done this before. And as I'm experiencing that's happening in the big picture, and we've got overlap and issues, and sometimes we want overlap, and we want redundancy and stuff. But anyway, I'm thinking, how do we look at it like what we want accomplished and then go backwards from that, so that we're not just a bunch of random monkeys typing and hopefully we'll get Shakespeare one of these days. Like, how do we set something up so that we're more likely to get what we want instead of like hopefully maybe.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit different than. What in tech, how we would do it. I don't know if it would translate into 2A or not. Is by segmentation.
Are you talking like target audiences, or are you talking like the steps to like segment the process of building whatever we're building, or what do you mean?
Yeah,
by
you segmentate the steps that you do. Let's say you're building code, right? To let's say every time like a puppy comes on the screen, you have a picture of G-webs pop up and grab the puppy and pet the puppy, and then a sound plays and stuff like that. So what you can do is you segment it down. Like, first thing you want a puppy. So okay, You work on getting the puppy to pop up. You work on the program that has GUFs petting a puppy. Then you work on the one that, and then you tie it all in together. So you can have multiple programmers working on the same program, but they're working on different pieces of the same program. And then at the end, you tie all the segments together into a giant working program. So I don't know if that translates to 2A or not.
I think, and actually to that point, like, it was when we were talking about reverse engineering, I think this was something that we were kind of discussing with not reverse engineering, right, but just engineering a solution. And so what I kind of outlined was roughly the PSYOP process, if you will. So if you were to look at how military does psychological operations, that was my MOS for like 8 years. Basically, right, you'd start with knowing your goal, and then you'd have to be, okay, well, the next step is I have to know who I'm talking to if I'm going to communicate. And then you go, okay, now that I know what my goals are, what I want to say, who I'm talking to, now I have to figure out how I'm going to phrase those words and put them together. I need to make sure that the message can get out to them. I got to verify this information, come back, refine my message, and then mass produce and get it out, and then kind of just start this self-learning cycle where we just continually refine after that, and we kind of rinse and repeat. I was going to say
Intel for a while.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
For the government, but like electronic warfare.
Rock on.
Like counter threat. All like electronic wise. Like electronic espionage, counter espionage actually, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and actually on that note, on some intelligence gathering, I posted a link in the private chat, G, for the Facebook ad library that I'd recommend kind of checking out, because this is a great way to reverse engineer what some of our opponents are doing, and also what other, say, like 2A organizations are kind of doing with their ad spend. You can see who they're targeting. You can type in any issue you want. You can type in gun control. You can type in March for Our Lives. You can type in NRA, whatever you want to type. And then you should be able to see just a series of ads that come up. You can click on like whichever one, or you can just hit, I think you might be able to just hit enter.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't have to click on one of these. I can just hit enter here.
Yeah, try it. Let's see if it works.
No, it's not like
okay.
Oh, I know what it is. It's I put in this. It wants me to click this. It's just going to take. Oh, I guess it does. It wants me to click on that.
So yeah. So let's try a search for like March for Our Lives. We're all familiar with them, right?
Yeah. And let me caution you though. Stuff like March for Your Lives, like anti-gun groups, pro-gun groups, that's actually a whole different. Anything political runs through a different system than regular ads.
Yeah, they have different layers of approval, but there's also one of the benefits of this, because it's an issue, is if you scroll down on one of those ads, you should be able to expand it for see ad details. So when you see this, you can see their ad spend, you can see what regions, and also the demographics of who they're targeting. So like one really interesting thing to me here was they're going for the parents and they're going for the kids, right? And it's kind of interesting. They're leaving out that 18 to 24-year-old group.
That's interesting.
So there's some things where you can kind of look at a series of different ads by them and see who they're targeting. You can also, now is where you'd kind of begin your analysis on their word choice, their vocabulary choices, what specific things they're doing. And then you can kind of go through that. And what you can also see is when they're doing trial and error. So you can know if they're testing a new strategy. So this is just like one of those intelligence things, like market intelligence things you can do to kind of gauge what your competition's doing. And you can do this for pretty much any political thing. If you're doing, my experience, and John, you might be able to help me out here, but my experience with say more traditional ads. So if we use that yellow shoe example, typically you won't get this complete of a breakdown on that from the ad library.
Okay. Because it's to offer data that might be that they want to charge for. So when it's a political thing, they kind of have to. Is that?
I think it has to do with disclosures. So like if it's a political thing ever since, and I don't know if this was pre-Russiagate. I mean, John, you're going to be the expert here on this stuff. But
it goes way beyond that. It's like it has something to do with nonprofits and nonprofit spend reporting and PACs spend.
Right.
It's all like in fact.
There's different levels of nonprofits, and they have obligations to disclose their financial stuff. So they can't just do stuff and say, "Oh, we got $48,000 laying over here." They got to have breakdowns, probably, right? So it's
Yeah, I don't know. It's something like that, but it goes beyond. It was before Russiagate.
Gotcha. But yeah, so at any rate, it does let you see what your political opponents are doing, or also what your allies are doing. So if you typed in, National Rifle Association, you could see where the NRA is throwing their money. Conversely, who are they trying to win over? So this is the type of research that I advocate groups do. So like when you see organizations that have really big ad spend budgets, if they're not doing this research, my professional opinion is you're wrong. You need to know what the media space is, and you need to know who's participating. You need to know what they're saying, what they're doing, who they're talking to, because it might be that we need to swing over that school demographic and steal it from March for Our Lives. It might be that demographic is a lost cause and we're not worried about it. But those types of analytical conclusions, they take a lot of thought and they take a lot of research to arrive at. And if you're going to be spending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, my opinion is you want to have as much research on where your dollar is going to go as possible, so you're making the most educated, bet that you can.
Yeah, but here's the BS. Well, like stuff like NRA, anything that has to deal with guns, like gun organizations and stuff like that. The people who approve the ads suck. They don't like guns. So
that's very true. Yeah.
Well, that's independent and
so
what's like it can have, if there's like a social change or whatever, then that could change their taste too. If it's not like a terms of service thing, if it's not written into their
yeah, but it's still approved by a human, and that's where you run into issues. So if like any groups, luckily I used to work at Facebook, so I still have a lot of contacts. I'm in a group, I guess you can say, that I can get like appeals, like Mr. Guns and Gear. I got his channel back. Hank Strange, I got his channel, not his channel, not channel, but his page back. I've gotten a lot of people's page back, but if it wasn't for like people like me or Chuck Rossi, for example, they wouldn't have got their pages back. And with some of the ads, like pro gun group ads, if it wasn't for Chuck Rossi or like me, a lot of the pro gun groups ads, it would have been in limbo. They would have been in appeal after appeal after appeal.
Yeah, and it's a dirty process too. I went through it on a meme page I ran just for fun. One time I just ran it was a troll meme page. And I'm a notorious, like on Facebook, I enjoy that activity for the detriment of mankind. But I ran it was right-wing memes for right-wing teens or something like that. And I think it was one of my admins posted something. I immediately had to begin like reining in content on that page, and we were at like 250,000 for like our monthly reach. Like we were getting a lot of impressions out there, and it wound up being like, hey, look, like you said that this content was here, this content was posted, it was immediately taken down. Is there anything that we can do? You said that this violates your code of conduct. I'm going to quote your code of conduct, the section that you're referring to. It is not violating that. In order for it to do that, it would need to do this, this, and this. This is wrong. And it was just deaf ears, and the page got deleted. And it was sad. It made me sad, like, but that's the reality of dealing with a lot of these tech companies, like without guys like, you or people that really know that system or have the contacts inside that system, it's yelling into a black hole straight up.
It's more the contacts, because it doesn't get escalated. I can go an end around and escalate past the I don't want to call them peons, but the workers who just look at content all day. And I felt bad for those guys, actually. A lot of them are really jaded because some of the stuff that they see.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
They just get so stressed out when they see something they don't politically agree with. They just, take out their frustrations on that post. It sounds kind of crazy, but they see some pretty messed up stuff.
No, of course they do, because there's not just the people that are posting, but then there's the people that are trying to be extreme, and then there's the people that are literally weird, right? And then there's the AIs that are gonna, not understand boundaries, and they're gonna post weird stuff. And and this, like I'm saying, this is a temporary situation, a temporary phenomenon, while we have platforms, and that's still of interest, so people are here. And there's abuse, so that means there's a need to have some sort of moderators. And because we don't have smart enough AIs yet, we don't trust them. The moderator's a human, and we're going to have basically the equivalent of PTSD. And I can't hardly blame the humans. That I can't even imagine having that kind of job to, like you say, whatever their point of view is, whenever they get to something that strikes a nerve, they're going to be human about it, and they're going to try not to, maybe, but whatever. So that's an eventuality. I'm not talking about, I don't want to have this show to shake my fucking fist at the sky. I don't give a shit about how horrible it is today, or how horrible it will be tomorrow, or how horrible it will be yesterday, because we've always had problems and we'll always come up with solutions. So what I want to talk about tonight is what we can do to affect something different. I don't give a shit about, unless we're talking about, to clarify something, I don't care about the way it is today, because the way it is today is going to be the way it was yesterday, tomorrow, right? Like, these things change. We all know it. We've all been in the tech industry long enough that whatever these little hurdles are, none of them have stuck around very long. Like, they always get past this. So eventually we're going to get past this. So getting back to this insight, looking at this is just going in. This is not necessarily like, I'm used to going in and asking Facebook to run an ad. And then when you're in the mechanism to pay for an ad, it'll give you all kinds of information about running ads. You can glean all kinds of information as if you were going to be a customer, by looking at their catalog, so to speak, of like what they can offer you. But this isn't that. This is more like, in an effort to be open, we're allowing a window to see what political organizations are doing with their money on Facebook, right? This is a function of the machine that's designed just for an observation window, right? And we're going in and we're filtering it, in this case, to National Rifle Association. We're filtering it to March for Our Lives. And although National Rifle Association isn't the only thing on the pro-gun side, and March for Our Lives is certainly not the only or biggest thing on the anti or the gun prohibitionist side, it's an example of two different things. So we can see a giant difference in the 50 grand that this project has since 2018 compared to the almost 2 million that NRA has dealt with since 13. So if this is this is actually only the May through, so it's like barely a year's worth. So this isn't an accumulation of the whole time or nothing. This is just 1 year's worth of spending. But since we can get this information, it seems like if we had an individual or a group or some sort of a system that was aware of this and started to record this, think of the info, the tactical advantage you'd get from knowing what and where Bloomberg is spending money for over here. And like you kind of talked about, who they're focusing on. If you could collect that kind of data, do the same thing for our site, follow some of the large organizations, you'd get information about trends, you'd get information about strategies.
Yeah, and one of the cool things too, if you don't mind driving on the NRA side, can we open up an ad detail on just pick any NRA ad that looks like it has some ad spend behind it, like a decent amount of money, and then open up one for March for Our Lives that looks like it has a decent amount of money spent too, and just go see ad details. Let's just kind of compare them side by side. So we can kind of just
about it yet to determine that. How do I?
So it says like the amount spent, and we'll say less than or greater than a certain amount. So it's about.
Okay, so this one's got money behind it. That other
yeah.
one's
So and then let's see if we can find one similar for March for Our Lives. So we'll just kind of take like two of their bigger ads, right, and just kind of compare them side by side. And so this is.
Well, that's interesting too. So let me go back and just by sorting high to low, now we'll see what the fluctuation is too, right? So this one is amount spent, 2,000 is their big ad. And that's
okay.
The only one they've got even money on. So we just picked one randomly, March for Our Lives, and they've only got the one with money, it looks like.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, let's open that one and then let's kind of compare to the NRA.
And then NRA is 10,000. I did them in order of how much, so it'll probably be a bit before we get down to there's 5,000, so I guess we're pretty close to 2,000 already. 5,000, 3,000. Are these in order or what?
I'd take a 3,000. The 3,000 is pretty close.
All right.
So yeah, so if we look here, right? So in this particular instance, we see that
that's all male, and that's half women.
And we also see who they're kind of representing that too. And then if we look over here, right, we do have that interesting spike down, but they're targeting mostly. And this is my guess. So it looks to me like it's parents, grandparents, and kids. And it's interesting that they're targeting kids on Facebook to begin with, because the platform overall is.
Are you talking about the
March for Our Lives? Yeah. So if you see, like, they're not targeting 18 to 24, right? So, or at least not as much.
They understand these people aren't even on Facebook.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see that there's that amount of kids on Facebook to me, because knowing my data, and John, I don't know if you can corroborate this with any of the research or what you've seen working there, but my experience has been you don't get a lot of young kids, like you don't get a lot of minors on Facebook, definitely compared to the adult population, and definitely with the adult population, it tends to be older, like people my age group now, that millennial age group. They're not necessarily super fond of Facebook. They like Instagram a lot. So it's interesting to me just to kind of see how that spend pattern spreads out on these two particular things.
Well, put it this way. If you're looking at the percentage of people on Facebook, how many fall in that 18 to 24 category, percentage-wise, it's probably low, but Facebook is massive. It almost has like a 70% market share in the United States. So that's still probably 20 million 18 to 24-year-olds on Facebook.
And so, yeah, just volume, right? There's still going to be a bunch of them there, even though it's not, say, the optimized platform, quote unquote, to reach them. There's still so many that it's still worth it to make an attempt to reach them.
Well, that's you have an email. I know people that have an email, but good luck ever getting them on an email because they hate email. They use text or whatever, right? Like that's.
No, I'm talking about active accounts.
Yeah, like if you're talking like strictly the active accounts, even if they're smaller as far as the percentage, the overall number is so overwhelming, right? To your point that, like, hey, it might be 2% of the user base, but when Facebook has billions of people, even if it was only 2%, that would still be, and it's more than that, but it would be still worth it to go just because there's so many.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
Do you care about percent of a user base of a population, like 2% of 25-year-olds, or do you care about the 25-year-olds that are like voters or the 25-year-olds that are active? You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. Facebook has more 18 to 24-year-olds than Instagram does. But that's because there's a lot. I mean, active, but that is because the total amount of people on Facebook and Instagram, if you compare the amount of people on the two platforms, you're gonna actually have more on Facebook, even though that it's a smaller percentage of the actual Facebook user base.
Just because there's a shit ton more people on the platform.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that since they show you the states, you can see that the March for Our whatever is distributed both male and female pretty decent, like pretty evenly, really, because they emphasize male sometimes and female sometimes, older females, middle-aged males, and equal on some of them. I don't know if you noticed that this one doesn't go down to 13. They're probably not able to send it, or they didn't send it to younger than 18. So this isn't the same.
Oh no, they can't because of the minimum age to buy guns in the United States, no matter what gun it is 18.
So this one is like a lot
Facebook won't allow
male,
them to.
male and the 25-year-olds, right? And then like a little bit, but otherwise this one is distributed. But then you look at the states and it's like the population centers: California, Texas, Illinois, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, and New York, Florida. You look over here and it's Texas, but then it's a bunch of stuff in the middle. So they're trying to get 25-year-old to 35-year-old dudes in like Arizona, Colorado. They're putting stuff all over the country where this is obviously not an attempt to influence or educate, right? They're adding a free gift. They want a member, where this is, we should be worrying about blah, blah, blah. And like, here's an intriguing picture that makes whoever, want to click on it about some news. They're probably throwing this in front of people that are activists and don't care about a free bag. They care about changing the world. And they're dropping this. How effective is that 50 grand compared to this 1.8 million? And then you think about, obviously we're not NRA rah over here, but I'm not against it either. But holy crap, like that's a lot of money to be generating because of their stupid little, concept that they need memberships. Now, what they do with that membership is not insignificant, and that's their ability to lobby with it should not be ignored. And anybody who wants to turn it into a black and white issue, is ignoring all the nuance that the NRA museums and the education and the tradition and the status it has that this creates, but still, it doesn't mean that it has to be here forever. And this definitely gives you such interesting insight, because not only the concept of what scale these people are at, but like I was saying, like the where they're targeting and stuff. So I guess for us, it lets us know that obviously this is something that needs to be dealt with anti-propaganda, where this, whatever, we know that they're not helping. They're not working towards this goal. They're just trying to do whatever they're doing with trying to get numbers and stuff, which is significant. We can't like let every 25-year-old kid that's throwing hay and who's not online because he's worried about paying for his new car, right? Who ain't worried about what's going on online. We don't want to not let them join the NRA. We don't want them to talk to their idiot friend from California and get talked into guns aren't that good. We need the NRA to reach the people that the NRA can reach. So I'm not here to rag on them, but I'm super interested in this insight. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, can you snap up to the copy for the March for Our Lives ad? What does it say there? It was just a little small on my screen.
So it's a picture of like a kid, like a little girl or something, somebody with long hair, running away, like a blurry picture, running away from the camera with some, I don't know, it could be like an office or more like an education school type of blurry picture. So I don't know, it's kind of almost like, it's not that interesting picture, but it makes you want to click on it type of thing. And it says, text, we should be worrying about our exams, not whether or not we'll be shot. When we send students back to school, what do we want their experiences to be?
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so
that's supposed to be like a trailer of, like a school shooter, and she's running away from a school shooter, blah, blah, blah.
I'm sure,
right.
yeah.
Not like that tension or that like movement type of picture, right? It's you can tell it's a video, so it's got the little stupid triangle in the center. Where the NRA says, join the NRA, free gift, annual membership only. And then it's got this piece of shit Chinese garbage ripoff shit material crap.
Yeah, the high speed low drag, the high speed low drag Molly bag, right? And
no, it's garbage, and it's got the Molly on it, and it's like the stupid design. It's like whatever the idiot Chinese like catalog had, they fucking embroidered NRA on it, and it's shit, and it probably smells like urine. Again, it's coming with Corona all over it. I have nothing against the NRA, but I hate when we've got real, vets that are sewing stuff on machines made here, with thread made here, with nylon made here, 100% Berry compliant. Be going a long way to social integrity to show, Berry compliant free gifts. But no, this is, again, to try to show somebody who's, going to the Tractor Supply and they're deciding, should I buy a shotgun with my Trump money, or should I buy a four-wheeler, or should I buy a jet ski? Or should I buy a new dog? Or should I buy a cowboy hat? Like, just because we don't live the life of somebody who don't give a shit about the stuff we give a shit about, like the NRA is reaching people just the same way the DC Project is reaching people that us four dudes ain't, or I guess us three dudes ain't reaching. So I'm not ragging on NRA, but I will rag on Chinese shit any day of the week.
Yeah, and I mean, it's important to remember the scope of the ad too. Like, if we back out on NRA and we go find an ad that's designed to maybe reach or persuade people. So like if we so we saw the March for Our Lives data and what they're trying to do to persuade. So they're using a fear appeal, right? The fear of loss of your children, trying to draw that empathy of think of the children, right? So we know that's their appeal. Let's see what the NRA is doing to persuade. Like, does the NRA?
This one I clicked on has a picture of a lady with nail polish and some sort of fanciness, like goofy shit on her nails. So, appealing to ladies who are paying attention to their hands. And then, what is this piece of shit Ruger or SIG or some CZ crap? 9mm gun in her hand. She's got trigger control at least. And then it says like NRA on Facebook, and it's just a big, like whatever, maroon background with this gun. So it's sort of a dumb picture. It says NRA all subtle. But then this one is just completely distributed differently. Definitely distributed men and women more equally. A little bit heavy on the younger men and older women, just like the other one did earlier. They spent $5,000 on this ad, and it went out to the population centers. It looks like Texas, California, Ohio, the voting states. So this one was a different type ad, and it says support the right to self-defense. Kind of a low, what's that word? Like low, not high.
The NRA hires an outside company to do market research.
And has. I mean, they also got, you can't be doing what the NRA has been doing for decades and not just know. I mean, they could probably got a pretty good idea how to do this, even if they weren't paying somebody.
Yeah.
They've kind of been doing this for a while. And their ads are all over the place. When we're looking, I'm just scrolling through their different ads. They've got them with the Gadsden flag. They got it with the White House. They got it with sort of an infographic. They got the guy drawing from concealed. They've got whatever the hell that's supposed to be, some white thing. They got some guy with the Texas State Rifle Association and a cowboy hat and a mustache type of thing. They've got what is this? I don't know what that is. Is it the Congress? No, the Senate. The
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, thank you. And so they've got a bunch. They got someone with some cash here. They got asshole fucking spend money, Mr. fucking ass McFace, on a bunch of them here. There's some more cheap bags. They got one where Sanders will ban guns. I'm assuming that was when he was still in the running. Bloomberg will ban guns. So they've definitely got it all over. Like you say, dude, they're paying big money.
Yeah, let's see. Can we click on Bloomberg will ban guns and let's see who they're hitting with that? So they're still leading.
Wow, totally different. Wow.
Yeah. So like each one of these ads is going to be structured for. So like, where does Bloomberg have a name that we can hit? Like, so where, like, these are the questions I'd ask. Like, why is California excluded on a Bloomberg ad? So then the answer might be something like California is way left. So
Why
if
waste
you're
your time or money? Right?
right, yeah, it's a corporate Democrat state, like through and through. And I can tell you as a resident, I just built my first AR, by the way, and featureless. Don't even get me started on how stupid the laws here are. But yeah, like the idea of, okay, they're not hitting California, but they are hitting other pretty left leaning states. They're also, it looks like they're fighting, like Texas is massively purple right now. And I don't just mean on the Facebook graph, I mean in general, right? Like Texas is an ideological battleground right now. A lot of California liberals are fleeing because the policies have failed here, and they're going to go take their votes and their dumb ideas over to other states like Texas and Idaho and Oregon and whatever, in Nevada, and they're going to start turning these states kind of slowly purple. And so I could see the NRA kind of preempting something like that, just knowing kind of what's going on in the background here. Like, hey, let's make sure that we're strong and our base is kind of rallied.
Right, and then we're looking at one ad again out of a page. We were scrolling through just dozens of ads, right? And that's what they're all about. So we're seeing that they spent $1.8 million, and that sounds like a lot. This particular ad, just this one ad for 7 days, June 4th through 10th this year, was $21,000. So they spent $21,000 on this one ad, in this distribution through these states. But keeping in mind that's in a matrix with all those other ads in some sort of giant elaborate plan. This one certainly isn't, here's a cheap bag and join the NRA is the main feature or whatever. This is, still membership based, but, it's definitely made to appeal to people who are more aware than scared. Right?
I know the NRA has a direct contact at Facebook because they spend so much money. They actually have like a dedicated person.
Well, a question I'd have then is, because I was working with stuff back in the days when, there was money or whatever. It was a smaller internet, let's put it that way. So when someone has, I don't know how big the NRA is. We like to think the NRA is pretty big because from our perspective, it's the biggest pro-gun owners' rights group out there. But, compared to like pharma or the oil industry, it's probably not that big. So, and all these other industries are going to have representatives or something similar to NRA, if not multiples, that are going to be spending this kind of money with Facebook. So my question is, those representatives, is Facebook in a way where like you're at a certain level you're spending enough on Facebook each month, so now you've got a rep who's your rep, period, 24 hours a day, that's your rep? Or do these reps handle like 10 clients like that?
They're called like A reps or A-list reps, where if you spend, I think it's like $2+ million on ads, they will assign you a person, and that's your person at Facebook. They advocate for you and whatnot.
And that's not like somebody just answer questions on the tech floor. That's somebody who's basically your lobbyist at Facebook, who makes sure that not only is your shit taken care of, but if something's about to go down, you get involved in the conversation or whatever level it is. But it's more that it's like an actual influence at Facebook, not just
yeah. They will go and let's say an NRA ad gets rejected. Instead of like going through the appeals process or whatnot, NRA will call up their person assigned to them, and that person will start opening tickets, task, what do we call them? They will start making phone calls to VPs. They will start doing, doing everything. They'll be the company's surrogate with inside Facebook, basically.
And that's pretty standard across platforms too. So it's like it's going to be the same for like Google Ads or Yelp or whatever. Generally speaking, if you have a high enough ad spend, you get a certain kind of tier of service with basically like an account manager or whatever the equivalent is. So so basically, if you have enough money to get in the game, you get access to a lot of the big boy resources. The problem for a lot of the indie activists out there is that, right, you have that as an obstacle. So if you're able to kind of rally enough people with you and crowdsource and fund and all that, then it's a possibility to where you could enter that game eventually. You just have to build up that foundation enough. Otherwise, you're going to be kind of DIY.
Well, and then collaboration, right? So knowing that's part of the playing field, or some version of it is always going to be part of the playing field until it's an AI interface or something that takes the human element out. That's going to be the factor. I guess first I would say we know that's. I hear what you're saying, that like the different platforms are going to offer similar, like, is that concierge, whatever that, like, having
concierge.
Yeah, that's word service. But like I say, that's where I knew that back in AOL days, like there were certain customers or clients, or whatever you want to call, like business partners, where like if they called, you dropped everything and you worked with them. Like you made sure they were happy. And then there was like, well, I take care of 10 of you people. So yeah, you've got influence here, but I also have 10 other people who have the same influence here. And that's where, as far as like NRA in the hierarchy, I wonder where we're getting. Are we getting I shouldn't say we, is NRA getting, at that level? Are they getting like somebody who's their advocate and like, maybe 2 other people? Or is it like, they're on the floor with 13 others at that level? Like I said, think about it, like the people in cars and food and pets and doctors. There's just so many things that are nagging at Facebook to have a little attention, that I'm just curious, at what level we are as far as influence goes. And then that keeping in mind, and like I say, there's always going to be some version of that at every platform, and through the eras, depending on where it's at, we're always going to have some element of that. But there's always going to be larger and smaller. And like you were saying, like John earlier, like people, or you knew people, and when someone had a problem, they weren't left on their own devices. They rallied, right? We got together. So that's the kind of thing that ideally, when the organizations that attain, some sort of a representative or ear, when they've got that they let the others know and go, okay, we've got this resource now that, if something happens to you, let us know so we can help pull you out of that mud, or we can help make people aware of your situation over there. And go ahead.
I've been pretty open about, especially since I left, that if you have any issues, and a lot of people knew behind the scenes, this is where I worked at before I quit. If you have any issues with Facebook, I could pull strings and give you access that you might not have otherwise. And I still will give people access to the resources I have for the gun stuff. Because right now there's not a lot of gun advocates left at the company. Most of us have basically been, I wouldn't say run out of the company, but it was just been made so gun unfriendly that most of the pro-gun people on Facebook chose to leave.
So do you feel like, and because I guess this is a question I'm really interested in, do you feel like the social pressure on any kind of like unpopular positions, so say like gun control, or like I think the public perception is probably like a lot of other maybe more conservative specific issues, do you feel like the social pressure around 2A and those kinds of issues is what drives people? Do you feel like it's something that's top down from management, like it's too uncomfortable from like the managerial culture? Like, where do you think that culture problem is inside tech?
It's on Facebook, it's not managerial. It's the actual culture itself of the employees. It's interesting because I live on the East Coast, but most of the people I worked with lived on the West Coast, in Menlo Park, or you know, that area, the Silicon Valley area, and it is so left leaning out there that the people there, they don't even realize how far out of touch they are.
I can
So,
say
you
that
know,
from being a couple hours down the road. I can
yeah.
totally agree. Without a doubt.
So, like, that's just the whole, yeah. So that's just the whole thing. But hey, I'm on like 1% battery, so and I don't have my charger.
Right on. Well, if you drop out, we'll understand.
Yeah, and just in case, I totally appreciate meeting you, John. It was great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
John.
meeting you too. If you need any help with tech stuff, let me know.
For sure.
Yeah, I'll send around an email or something so you guys have emails. But yeah, John's been jumping in. It's late for him, but he's been jumping in occasionally. And
Yeah,
while
it's
you're always welcome,
2 o'clock in the
Excel,
morning.
as soon as it gets to where there's any kind of regularity again, I'll start sending out links and inviting people in again. I just got out of the habit because people hadn't been jumping in. But anyway, John's been jumping in, so yeah, jump in anytime. It'd be great if we got a bunch of like-minded folks in here and had interesting conversations. You know?
Yeah, and I'm down. I'm totally down. My biggest thing is I just got to make sure that I work out the schedule. So like I'm good to go until about 11 California time. So I got another 15 minutes, just because I got my kids, my kid and my wife here. My other kid is away right now with some family, but yeah, just with the kids and everything, they run in here, they jump on me, they scream, they cry, and I don't want to subject everyone to to all that noise. So
I hear you. Mind my things, you know, I kind of using that same analogy. I've been kicking that around in my head. And the problem with superheroes that I've found is you can't find, you know, every once in a while somebody comes along who's just really capable and competent and they accomplish a lot. They accidentally accomplish a lot or they intentionally accomplish a lot, but something gets done, right? What they're doing, or they inspire a bunch of people or they facilitate or whatever, right? And that's awesome, but we can't rely on that. And then there's always the possibility that, you know, they eat a bad fig or something, you know, or they skid, you know, too crazy around a curve and they're not there anymore. And then just the problems that we were kind of alluding to, where if a platform takes them down or something, so they're just, you know, taken out at the knees, so to speak, with their effectiveness. I don't think that's the strategy, right? And, you know, I think we're better off with a bunch of individuals that are competent and capable who can inspire each other or have the ability so that, anyway, what I'm getting at is, yeah, if we had this conversation, I'll keep doing this show. I've been doing it for 1,000 episodes and I'm stoked again. So I'll keep doing it. And if it can be here and even once or twice a month, it turns into a decent conversation like tonight, then it's worth it. Because if that can inspire some people to get kicking or just facilitate people's, you know, creative process on this, then it's worth it. But yeah, I don't want you to feel like a burden to jump in every night. Ideally, this is just a good place to have a conversation, and whenever you're able, you can jump in for as long or short as you want.
yeah, and I appreciate that. And I think like one of the things too is just like you said, you know, it's going to be more about consistency and it's going to be more about an educated and informed population going out and, you know, going back to the Second Amendment Foundation, making those personal relationships with people and talking and bringing them over into the fold, you know, and
think about putting our finger on the trigger, right?
Yeah.
Nobody thought about that shit when it was muskets, because unless you're an idiot and you've got your second trigger back, you know, nobody's touching that. It doesn't matter because it can't load a gun and go off. So it was never an issue. Single action revolver, same thing. Finger on the trigger, who cares? They're not going off. Like, that's just not a thing. You get to 1911s, let's rethink this whole thing. So by the time you get to now, finger on the trigger is a dumb move. So in order to eliminate tons of problems down the road, you know, we try to let people know right off the bat, finger off the trigger, and give people, you know, the nudge if they're not, and a pat on the back when they are, right? Like, now that's just a thing. And did anyone sit down? Did the NRA say finger on the triggers or off the trigger is going to be a thing? You know, did Cooper come up with his 4 things and say, and damn it, finger off the trigger is the most important, and I'm going to make sure that by 2020, that's just common knowledge, household knowledge, or whatever that's called? Like, no. But if we do the same thing with intent and get it to where we're just, you know, hey, we know how to clean a gun, we know how to buy it, we know how to keep it away from our kids, we know how to defend its fucking right, you know, the right to own it. Like, that just becomes part of it again. That's all I'm asking, is so that everybody's got about, of their 100% that they devote to guns, which might only be 10% or 50% of their whole life, of that 100% they devote to guns. And right now, 50% is pistols and 50% is shotguns. Just, 10% is cleaning or whatever the hell the percentage is out there. Just start putting 2% in there for defending the right. So we all remember that. And it's just a little tougher for the antis to manipulate it away from us. Anyway, that would be a decent goal for us to get to.
Yeah, and I will say, like, on that end, like, I know, like, with what I've been focusing on that more, like, let's break down the arguments where people are kind of stumbling, because my worldview is, and I think, and let me know if you disagree with this, by the way. My understanding and my experience has been, when I expose someone to guns, when I take them to a range, even if they were a little bit anti, like, even if it was just like, oh, I'm for gun control, or oh, I'm for these couple things, or I'm for mental health screening as part of the background check process, or whatever, right? And they could have their little anti opinions, but they're okay with maybe trying a gun and shooting it. As soon as they start shooting, and as soon as they see that people make shooting look a lot easier than it is, they get exposed to the purchase process and what it is, all that stuff, then it's like, as soon as you get into that, then they're like, oh, there actually is more to it. Actually, maybe I do need to rethink some of these opinions. I just didn't know all that stuff because it's not my world, and as soon as they get exposed to it, you start to see them flip. I don't know if that's been your experience with, like, maybe flipping anti-gunners or non-gunners. But that's definitely what I've seen out here in California.
I can't say that I have a lot of experience with flipping or nothing. Like, I've put a lot of thought into it, but I don't personally know too many people. I'm trying to even think if I know anybody that's like anti-gun. If anything, I know people that aren't around them, but they know me. So I've already ground off their edges. Like, if anybody had any like real problems with it, they've known me long enough now, like family, friends, like that kind of thing, that they understand that guns are just like four-wheel drives or motorcycles. You might not like them and you might not want to drive one, but it's really not bothering anybody other than like hearing some noise once in a while. It's literally not bothering anybody that your neighbor's got a motorcycle, your crazy uncle's got a motorcycle. And that just because you see a movie where Mad Max or whatever is driving around with an evil motorcycle guy, every motorcyclist isn't evil. Like, I've accomplished that over the years, I guess, but I don't, my thing isn't to go up to an anti and attempt to do anything. So I just don't have that chance, or that, it's just never been something I went for. So I've never.
I mean, I'm out here in California, so it's like I'm surrounded by it, right? And I'm pretty radically libertarian. Like, even though I'm a Californian, I would still fit into other states that were more red. I wouldn't be that Californian that everybody hates. Like, if people get to know my politics, they're like, nope, he's a guy that just wants to be left alone. Like, and that's pretty much my political leaning. I don't care what you do. Leave me alone. Let me have my toys. You can have your toys. We're all fine and dandy. And that would be, so it's like, I'm pretty laissez-faire, right? But I know, not most Californians are not. Most Californians are like corporate, and they're like corporate Democrat types, and they're very much that Bloomberg archetype of Democrat. That's what you see with about just under 40% of your population's thinking. And then the rest is kind of split, between either Republican or independent or libertarian or whatever else. So
that's a good point too about being in California, and I'm in Arizona. So at least the most of the time I've been around guns growing up, it's been in Arizona, where it's not a big deal. Like, no big deal at all for guns anywhere. Like, it's, if you had a gun at a store, nobody's going to care. If you had a gun at anywhere, nobody cares. So it's not where in California, since it's not, I guess, the same kind of norm or whatever. And I'm thinking also, I don't live in like Phoenix. Like, if I lived in Phoenix, I'd be in Arizona, but it would be a little different than living, out in the country, basically. So if you lived in California in a city, and you don't just ever get around guns and stuff, and the same way you don't get around horses, or the same way you don't get around boats or something, like, it's just another thing of millions of things you could care less about. And then Bloomberg comes around and gives you something that doesn't sound like it's crazy. Yeah, why wouldn't you accept it and not care at all that you're wrong? You know what I mean? Like, who cares? There's no law that says in this country you've got to be held accountable for being right or wrong. Like, you can be wrong all the time you want and be, you're allowed to be. It's illegal to be wrong. But so yeah, that would be different to have a situation where people are just yeah, it's just not a thing or whatever. Like it's just, it's never in their face. It's only in their face when it's a negative thing. So, they're not going to be thinking about it.
Yeah, and like right now too, like one of the big things, and this is why I talk about the liberal side of it so much, and getting them on board is because when they start to see now, now right now, especially with George Floyd, police brutality is a forefront concern. The Second Amendment fundamentally is about resisting tyranny. The Second Amendment is about being able to maintain a secure state, right? As it's written. So allowing the people to secure the state against tyranny. So whether or not you agree, disagree with police actions, that's what the Second Amendment's for, right? And that right now for them, it's like, well, hey, you think police brutality is an issue. What are you going to do? Call in the UN? You're going to call in like, British troops or something to come in and keep the peace right now for the people? You think that they're going to keep you safe from the National Guard? You think that you think they're out to get you? So I have an idea. Why don't you take control of your own security? And then what do you see right now with gun sales? People that were anti-gun are flipping like crazy right now in California. People are, you had gun shops complaining about how many left-leaning newbies were coming in and asking them, like volunteering to bribe them to break the laws on background checks and waiting periods for them because they were so desperate to get their hands on ammo between COVID and this.
Right, and if you don't understand the significance, you just think it's like, hey, give me one of them lottery tickets. Nobody's going to care. Like there's no consequence. It's really just a bureaucracy hassle or whatever. Like if you don't know, then you don't realize you're asking them to commit a 10-year felony for every line of code they write on that page that's incorrect.
Yeah, and to my end, what I did. I had a friend who got his truck windows smashed out because he had a Trump bumper sticker. And so on my end, responsible gun owner, my stance is, okay, in California, I can't open carry on your porch. It's illegal. I just can't do it. What I can do is I can go wait with you over at your house. And if I'm going point A to point B with my firearms, I can bring all the firearms and ammo I need. Would you like me to just kind of, sit here with you? There was a lady that posted, that someone said, hey, take your bullshit matters sign off your lawn. We're going to torch your house, da, da, da. And so I don't know if that note was authentic or not, but that was a note that she received, some like hateful note. Hey, you know what? Someone harassing you for your political beliefs. You want me to come over and, help keep an eye on your stuff and just be a friendly neighbor? Like, I don't have a problem meeting people where they're at and demonstrating, like talking to them and demonstrating the value of the Second Amendment. I have friends that went out and worked and went with businesses and sat on rooftops all night or sat out in front of them all night defending them. I got friends that went to the protests. I participated in the protest. And it's not because I agree with everything Black Lives Matter say. There's a lot of stuff. Most of their platform, I think, is has its issues. But hey, on this note, it's okay. I can disagree with what happened here, right? And I can participate. But I'm doing what I can just to show solidarity with people and protecting their freedom. To me, that kind of consistency matters, and I think it's just like making that presence in the community matters. When they can see that, hey, the gun owners aren't against me, the gun owners aren't out to get me, it's not some group of racist whatever, it's people who do genuinely care about freedom, it's people who do genuinely care about the human right to life. When they get to see that we're not the devil, right, and then they see the value of what we're doing and what we can bring to the table, I think that's really one of the big persuasive things to kind of get them in the camp with the rights. Because I don't care about their political leanings. If you're 2A, you're 2A. There's things you can do that would be more helpful, like voting for candidates that are pro 2A, like we were discussing in the last episode I was on. But what I'm doing right now, actually, in the liberal gun owner subreddit and all that, the 2A liberals and stuff, is I'm talking to them about that conversation. I'm like, hey, conservatives would love to work with you, but you keep voting for candidates that hate the Second Amendment. So you gotta start being pro Second Amendment, and you got to hold your candidates accountable, and you got to say, hey, look, if you want my vote, you have to defend my rights. And if you don't do that, I'm not voting for you, period. And you have to make that known, you know? So I'm trying to work on that negotiation with them to bring, because if I can bring the liberals and the conservatives together even a little bit, it's a force to be reckoned with. Like, the machine hates unity. It doesn't know how to deal with it, you know? So that's low key. That's my pipe dream. That's my goal.
Well, if it helps, let them know that there's, you know, from chatting with people all the time, that from just the gun owner side, and when you just have a conversation, you open it to all gun owners without a political emphasis at all, then you get usually, well, you can get, and as long as you know, allow it to happen, you'll get a good mix. And there's multiple things. So that's the other thing, is it's not like just guns. Like, our positions are polarized except for guns. There's like so much stuff. That's why it's so frustrating when we're on multiple parties already. But there's so many things. There's like a couple of core things that you could call conservative and whatever, liberal. And I think that's more like your healthcare, and like what the government's buying and paying for, and what the government, you know, needs money for, and what's the government redistributing. Those are the issues. All the other crap, sometimes the government's involved with that stuff, but a lot of those other things are much more like, you know, let's give and take. Those are chips on the bargaining thing. Like, and then there's the things like the Second Amendment, where I don't give a shit. Like, that's all I care about, because I see how that has significance over all the others, which kind of only fall once individuals can't defend themselves anymore. So the reason that all these other things are only at a simmer is because the Second Amendment is there kind of as a some sort of a spoon in the boiling water, so heat sink, so that, you know, it's allowing that other stuff to never boil over. And I don't want people to not worry about those other issues, especially if they affect them. That's how those other issues get resolved, and we figure out big things in the long run. But the Second Amendment needs advocates that only give a shit about it, I believe, because it's separate and significant. Same as the First Amendment has advocates that only care about it, necessary. Like religion, same thing. Necessary, need people that are focused on just those specific things. And I've just chosen firearms as my whatever, you know, stick. But I was going to say, you got to go, but I hate to take it to, like, you know, I got to carry a gun in protest, or I got to be a gun owner in protest, or any kind of action where what we've got with the circumstances now, especially with the protesting and rioting being conflated, and the negative, and the way that both any side, I mean, it happens from anywhere, and it's just a human thing that we all have to learn to deal with or evolve past. But we tend to, everybody is this when we want them to be, and nobody is our, you know, we're never associated with it when we don't want to be. So, you know, obviously there's things that people have the right to be upset about, and we don't get to tell them what they can be upset about. They definitely, we all agree, they have a constitutionally protected right. They have an inherent right that's protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution for them to assemble and to voice their opinion, right? Their soapbox. We all know that that's 100%, and that's the most effective way to get your voices heard. But we have parties, or we have players that are conflating the violence and all that. So we have the instigation of violence, and we have the players that are violent. And you know that the protesters are getting the hell out of Dodge. That 16-year-old kids that showed up because they want to be part of the system. They want to be part of change. They want to be able to be, you know, participating in all the things that I hope that we did when we were younger. You know, the things that we thought were important, and just the fun things like going to a concert. Kids don't go to concerts anymore. They just got done with the Chinese virus bullshit. Like, they wanted to get out and do stuff. When the violence and the bricks started getting thrown, I don't give a shit if 2 or 3 of the 16-year-olds threw a brick. Most of them 16-year-old kids got the hell out of Dodge, right? And the old people that were there with their grandkids got the hell out of Dodge. Anybody who was walking their dog and their kids in a stroller got the hell out of Dodge, right? Unless they couldn't, they got the hell out of there. And then all the chaos started, and those are rioters and looters. Yeah. And we all know that there's a difference, but the players, the fuckers that want to screw with us and manipulate, are going to conflate those whenever the fuck they want. So what I like to do is, instead of talking about the negative, the situations are created, situations happen, whatever, they're situations. Instead of talking about the situations, let's talk about the playing field. Let's talk about the system that those situations create, like the systems that created the situations. And when we talk about that is when we get to the bigger picture of the Second Amendment, talking to gun prohibitionists, people that would casually throw our rights that are protected by the Second Amendment away because they don't see a significance or this need for them. And they'll say, what is your M16 going to do against an F-16, an aircraft or an aircraft carrier? What is your pop gun going to do against a tank? You're crazy. You're ludicrous. Well, that's because they're setting this crazy situation up so that they're going to be right, because they're fake and they're not being genuine or intelligent, and they're creating a bullshit scenario that they're always going to be right on. It's absurd, right? So in real life, what we're seeing play out is all different layers of the state not being able, not having enough law enforcement to stop the felonious rioting and the arson and the murders that have happened and the assaults. Like that stuff no one's condoning. Very few people are condoning. And the police that are legit, which is the vast majority of them, it's just difficult to do that. That's why riots happen, because we don't have a police state. We don't have cells that pop up and lock everybody in a 20-foot section, because we don't live in a prison. So in a free country, we've got a system, and there's that situation going on or whatever. But where was I getting at? The people that are manipulating this whole thing, though, they're trying to focus as though the riots and the stuff, you need to bring your guns out, and it gets into the tension, and now you've got to say, well, I don't want to carry a gun. I don't want that guy I know. I don't want my crazy uncle so-and-so, or my crazy cousin so-and-so, or that guy I think is crazy. I don't want all these. That's what they want going through our heads. But what's really going, what the Second Amendment provides, is the situation where those protests can happen peacefully. And anyway, that's the stuff I was going to get. I'm getting lost track of them. Getting at, you don't have to say bring it to people who are either prohibitionists or just don't care. You don't have to bring it to them because of the threat of violence, we should all go get guns, or because people went and got guns, the Second Amendment is valid, because that's just showing a cause to justify, showing an effect to justify the cause, or whatever that's supposed to be called. Where you could just say, hey, where you say that an M16 can't stop an F-16, that's absurd, because what can stop is the people like you were talking about, who just either had the presence of guns present, or in states where they knew there was guns present, there was less of this craziness, because they figured there would be a lethal consequence to their violence. In states where it wasn't so obvious, right? There was some need to stand there with a gun on, and that's like the rooftop Koreans that people make fun of.
Mm-hmm.
But the presence of a group of people with a long arm is enough for even a riotous mob. People that aren't thinking clearly and have gone over and let the mob mentality take over. Not bad necessarily individuals, but definitely bad stuff happening, and without a lot of thought. And you don't have to get a tinfoil hat and say these people are being manipulated. You just know that when riots are happening, nobody's really planning it. It's just craziness happening. But the presence of a bunch of people standing there a block away with lethal consequence can stop all those individuals, and that stops the mob. Often it chills the mob out and they all start leaving. Very rarely does a mob ever engage with that. So that's where you don't even have to talk about the circumstance of that conflict. You can just say the idea that could happen, or that has happened, is why it didn't happen in Iowa, and it didn't happen in Arizona. It didn't happen in all the other states where
Boise actually. Boise was one, and I'm trying to find the photo, and I just can't for the life of me right now. But there was a photo that came out of Boise with all the protests, and it's like no violence, nothing, and legit, it's armed BLM protesters shaking hands with armed rooftop Koreans, effectively. So it's armed business owners shaking hands with armed BLM protesters. They're like, yeah, we're all good. Literally everyone that's armed there doesn't want any violence. They want to keep the peace. So they're just, we're going to keep it well behaved. We're going to regulate our own people, and we're going to protect the local businesses out here. We're also going to protect the right to peacefully protest. And it's like, that's the type of America that I want. I want an America where, people come out and they're like, I'll defend you. I'll defend anybody else that needs it. Like we're here, we're a community, and we help each other. Like, who doesn't want to live with that kind of positivity, right? Like, and
Well, the fear, the perceived fear from the other side, especially when this hasn't happened. So we got silver lining here. It happened. We're getting through it. And again, recent history. It's happened in '92. It happened in the '60s. It's happened in Ferguson, I guess, to different levels. It's happened, I guess. But this time it's happened in multiple states, right? And it's getting a lot of attention. But coming out of it or whatever, yeah, we've got so many opportunities for different people to take this facts, right? I mean, there's just so many ways to look at this. There's going to be some skew in it, right? And trying to manipulate it like it's a negative somehow. But so much more opportunity for people to look at this, pragmatically, like, just and say, look, all this stuff. I mean, look, there's just so many. I mean, we can get into it for hours. The number of firearms, the potential, the tension, the everything. Well, I guess we already are seeing one manipulation where they're suggesting that the number of suicides is somehow influenced, I guess, or
that is a factual correlation, actually. So if you look at and that's how, by the way, that's how they come up with all the bullshit gun violence deaths, is they attribute suicide by firearm. So yes, it is true that suicide by firearm does tend to be more final than other methods of suicide. So like if you slit your wrist or something, they can give you blood and stop the bleeding. If you shoot yourself in the brain, right, you're done, right? It's lights out, game over.
No.
But,
That would be a whole other discussion, but no, it's so much more to that, because all people that commit suicide don't go into the same room and have the same tools in front of them and then implement them the same way. Somebody who's crying out for help is going to commit suicide in a different way than somebody who's attempting to end something or quit being a burden. I mean, it's like somebody who's determined to commit suicide is a different person than someone who's crying out for help. You don't cry out for help by taking a .44 Magnum to your head. You cry out for help by doing some other thing. So when they attempt to suggest that there's some correlation there, I'll stop you at any time and debate that.
Oh, well, so I want to get through that, and then I want to get to the caveats that also matter, because there's additional data that provides kind of a light on that. So over half of our suicides, like let's say there's around 47,000 suicides, so over half of them are committed with a firearm, and we can say that's for any number of reasons. So I would liken it like this: if you're going to have car accidents, you need to have cars, right?
Exactly.
So that's not a surprise. These were people that were going to attempt suicide, whether a firearm was available or not, right? The means don't deny that. There's bridges to jump off of, there's blades, there's poisons, right? You can do a lot of there's a lot of different ways to do it, and if you need it, please go get help. Talk to me, because we'll get you numbers to call. But to that end, right? So there's that. What we also see when we look at other countries with suicide, and this is the interesting thing, other countries that have high volumes of guns, firearms per capita, what we see there is that sometimes these very modern countries that don't have that many firearms have a drastically higher suicide rate overall. So the fact that ours are happening with guns isn't like some special sin here. We're doing better than a lot of nations at dealing with suicide. We're not the best nation at dealing with suicide overall, but when we look at the totality of the problem, the fact that guns are available, yes, it's a tool that people can use to that end, and it's an undesirable end. But we see in other countries, people make the decision without that tool even more so. And we see in some other countries that they do it less. There's a correlation to success on suicide attempts, but that's what I would kind of leave it at.
There's social norms, there's religion involved there, there's financial stuff involved there, there's like traditional stuff involved there. So anybody that wants to pull all that stuff out isn't, like I say, you got to really dig into that stuff. And
totally, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so but you're right. Like you have to. You can't get in a car accident. It's difficult to get into a car accident without driving the car. I mean, you can be standing on the side of the road or whatever. But you also have, we don't have euthanasia. So we have a situation where with insurance and with wills and trusts and however that stuff goes. So yeah, there's so much stuff involved there. So, but I guess that's all I was saying is that they recently have brought out something that tried to allege that because of the whole Corona thing, there's more potential or
Oh,
armed
and
suicides or something, and because of guns, blah blah blah.
not
So
because, yeah, and that's where it's a dirty trick, because it's like, because of guns, it's like, no, like with Corona, you've thrown, yeah, to your point, all the social factors changed, and this is something that we've seen in history before, Great Depression era, when we saw like the massive uptick in suicides then, because people were losing their jobs, mass unemployment, mass economic disparity, people being forced to shelter in place with the plague going on at that time, right? We're almost mirroring those now, with like some better social programs and some better support and generally better, higher standards of living and better medical care. But we've had it's like a year's worth of suicides in 4 weeks. That's insane. That's like, I think that's pushing to like,
I don't know though. I mean, it sounds unusual, but
yeah.
in a different time, like if we got snowed in, if it was a different situation and no one could leave, if there was a solar flare and all the phones went out, would it be 11 times more? You know, if the oceans rose because the iceberg melted, and would it be 2 times more? Like, yes, 4 times is an anomaly and it's a horrible thing, but we couldn't go do elective surgeries. Like people. There's factors in there that would it have been 11 times more if
Yeah,
I don't know,
and
I hate to give them that number because like you say, there's just we don't live in a culture where you can decide it's time and I've made my legal decision and I'm going in and I'm not coming out, just like if you're a dog or something. We don't got that. So when you put people in that situation and then you allow us to get old, guess what? Some, people got to figure out, you don't all get to go walk out to a cave or go swimming, just start paddling out into the ocean. We don't all live next to the ocean. You can't just walk up a hill until you don't come down,
Yeah, and if I can, just because I do have to go, if I can close with this. So,
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. So this is kind of my gambit when anyone talks about gun violence suicides or gun specific suicides. So there was a study done, and this was peer-reviewed and everything. This is solid academic work. This person explored suicide. So we know suicide is a little over 50% of our suicides happen by firearm. So if someone's really concerned about gun violence, they can do this. The study dug into why people are committing suicide and the correlation between suicide and economic disparity, standards of living, things like that. They found that if you increase the number of, if you increase the number of people that can apply for food stamps by 4%, they would estimate a 50% drop in suicides. So suicides are, so that would be around 20,000 deaths, around 22,000 deaths a year, give or take. Yeah, roughly speaking, right? About 23,000 deaths a year. Firearms homicides are about 10K deaths. So that's about 2/3 of your gun deaths. You could cut them in half by expanding food stamps 4%. So if you want to talk about solving 1/3 of the gun violence problem and you're so passionate about it, why don't you advocate for a 4% increase to food stamps that barely costs a fraction of a percent of the national GDP? Mm-hmm. It's literally nothing.
And it's something that you wouldn't need to. I mean, I guess if they're living in the world where you got to do it all with government, but that's something that like a civic organization can come in and fill that gap. You're right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they're going to use those numbers too. That's where they get to play us. And I keep saying it's an ambush, but I'm hoping that with chatting with y'all, we're going to get better ways of describing this. But they set it up. They say that, oh, there's so many deaths, and they include suicides. But like you say, they then say the only conclusion to this is our solution, or the only solution to this is our law here. When, like you're saying, there's a creative way, like, let's look at this. And what's really, 2/3 of this number come from this, and something like, like you just said, then affect that portion of it. So what do you really want to do here? Do you really want to further piss off and alienate and divide your membership or your voter base and then the populace in general, or come up with some solution? And that would be a solution that they're already an advocate of, right? Like they're definitely Oh, food stamp.
Right. Like if you're on that side of the political spectrum, right? Like you'd have to be an anarchist or like a conservative that hates guns. And yes, those do exist. And I get that. So like
Right.
outside of that small percentage of Republicans that hate guns that much, if you're on the left side of the spectrum, you would want food stamps increased. And that's enough to do that. So how much more with any other programs? And we're talking like the average American wouldn't even see a fraction of a penny change on their taxes. Like we're talking like the change is so infinitesimally small, but has that big of an impact.
And if you were the gun business that stood up and said, "Hey, gun owners, I hate you, but here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to not attack you, and you just to let me give some of this money that I was going to spend attacking you on feeding these people over here. That what do you care about?" And they're going to go, "I don't care. Go ahead." Right? Because who the hell would care? I mean, I guess I would care a little bit because I don't want to see my money or anybody else's money redistributed by that horrible bureaucracy over here that you worship. So that part of it I have a problem with. But because I'm a single issue, as long as you're not attacking me right now, I'll deal with that compromise. I'm not giving you nothing other than you're allowed to play with this money irresponsibly in that area instead of over here. But the goal is accomplished, that we get less people dying. So
right. Yeah. And the ego on these, pardon my French, the ego on these motherfuckers to think that we want suicide, to think that we like gun accidents and gun deaths. We don't want any deaths. We don't want any violence. Like our goal is not to just prevent gun violence. Our goal is to be able to have a more secure state, less violence overall, less crime overall, stronger communities, stronger bonds, sense of trust. Like we're providing a practical way to reach just stronger communities and to reach just a better way of life by taking control of our own security and by embracing a hobby and a community activity that we all can share together. Like we are not out to get them. We're not.
Yeah, and we're not asking for something that hasn't been done before, or it's risky potential that might work, because we're talking about something that works all the time, literally all the time, except for in like 9 counties. You know, like all the time, like this whole country, we've all had guns. Everything's been fine until some crazy changes, mostly the war on drugs and some other shit that started to piss people off in the really populated areas. Those couple of counties skew all the numbers and we look violent. But yeah, that's another thing. The reason they won't come up with that solution is because it doesn't create that situation where that ambush, I keep calling it, or that create that whatever, the illusion that if you are not for what we are, then you are obviously for it. Like you're not against suicide. What the hell's wrong with it? It means you're pro suicide. So they can't suggest there's another way to fight suicide deaths, because they need to create the subtle or the what's the word, like subconscious.
They have like that agenda, right? Yeah, it's entirely an agenda, and that's where I take issue with it, because like what I want to do is genuinely approach the problems. Because if there's things that I need to say indoctrinate into say training with firearms, so to use the example earlier, the history of keeping the finger off the trigger, not really a big deal until now you're into the 1911's wonderful, amazing, very light trigger, and now suddenly, right, we change practices. Like with law enforcement, Newhall comes around, we change practices. Miami-Dade comes around, we change practices. We understand that things can change and that data can radically change where we go. I'm all about more firearms research. Like I don't mind if I would love for private companies to be digging in more. I'd love for it to be more academic and less biased, because there's a lot of just jacked up studies. The numbers and statistics around a lot of gun violence stuff, or a lot of just firearms self-defense stuff, are just terrible. Like the quality of the data is miserable. I would love to get more concrete, because it's like when we have that, then we can start to approach a lot of these problems better. And that's one of my big pushes as well. So
Hold on. Go away. Come back some other night and let's chat. But yeah, go.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, G.
Thanks for coming in though.
Yeah, have a good night.
All right. Yeah. So I had to do that because otherwise, Walt is pretty good chatter there. We would be going on lots of topics. So hopefully he'll jump in more often. And if the other people in that liberal gun club can bring some topics out like that, wouldn't that be interesting? All right. So one of the things we were looking at today is this little trick over on Facebook /ads/ Library, and that's a tool to investigate how much ad dollars things are spending on Facebook, entities or organizations or whatever it might be. So we had typed in some gun prohibitionist crap in here and some stuff like NRA earlier. And then while we were chatting there, I was just typing shit in here. So now I'm going to go look at it. So we got the NRA spending almost $2 million on Facebook just since May of 18. So I guess in the last 2 years, so they're spending about $1 million a year on Facebook. NRA brings in quite a bit of dollars, and of course everybody's going to be pissed off about what's his face's suits, but whatever. They're spending $1 million over on Facebook. Next over is GOA. I can't even imagine how much money GOA is making, but they're not doing a one-trick thing. I mean, NRA isn't just spending this money. They got a ton of money to spend. This is just one piece of the money they're spending, right? GOA is the same way. They've spent, since the same time frame, 2 years, they've spent just $11,000 on Facebook. It's an amazing difference, right? 2 million and 11,000. I don't know if this is legit, because there might be 6 different Gun Owners of America pages or entities on Facebook. They might be using a different strategy, or they've done different things differently. I just went in and typed and got the first thing that showed up. Same thing with NRA. I'm sure they probably got more than one entity on a thing like Facebook, but this isn't like data. This isn't like research. This is just fucking around looking at some numbers. But just for shits and giggles, 2 million for NRA, 11,000 for GOA. We get to Nagger, the one that brags about making like $4 million a year in memberships. They spent 123 in the last 2 years, so they've spent some money. They spent a significant amount more than GOA, and barely not even a significant shadow of what NRA spent. And they brought in $4 million. They got 4 million likes, so I don't know. We got some memes here from this one. I really don't know. So I don't know anybody who supports them. If I knew a bunch of people that supported them, maybe we could have a better conversation about it. Until then, I'm just going to keep saying I don't know. So now I'm going to quit showing them, and let's go back to Second Amendment Foundation over here. 0, nothing, nada. So again, different strategies, different things. They're not using Facebook. At least they're not paying Facebook. So, I mean, this is just how much these people are paying Facebook too. So it could be that Second Amendment Foundation is doing some sort of organic projects or organic campaigns, right? That don't cost anything and are more effective than some of these others. I don't know. 500,000 likes. Nagger has 4 million likes. NRA, 4 million. Wow. They have almost as many likes as NRA. So Second Amendment Foundation, 10% of the likes, but they're not even paying a dime. So 500,000 likes, they didn't pay a dime. GOA paid 12 grand, they got 1.5 million likes. I don't think they're paying for them likes though. I think that those likes are a result of GOA's activism, especially in the light of NRA's recent failures, or Wayne LaPierre's recent failures. I'm gonna start saying that. NRA fucking exists. NRA is in 17 something. NRA is 5 million members. Wayne LaPierre and the board of directors is 75 or less people that have steered that massive organization into the sand. We're either going to let the looters take it, or we're going to figure out a way to dig it out of the fucking sand, put a new captain in charge, and keep that thing doing its thing. I mean, it's a big ass, useful entity. Anyhow, so we got 1.5 for GOA. We got 500,000 with Second Amendment. Go over to firearms policy. This is actually surprising. 300,000. I really thought FPC would be smoking Second Amendment Foundation for sure, and I figured they'd be right on the heels of GOA. Even with GOA's recent, push or growth, I would have thought FPC was kicking the shit out of Facebook. They're spending $40,000. So even as little of the time I spend on Facebook, I've probably noticed, sponsored ads or something from them. So nothing recently, but in the last 2 years, 40,000. And then I put me in here just to see what would it say. And it basically says, I don't spend shit on Facebook. Amazing. What do you know? It's the first time I logged into Facebook. I logged into Facebook because of the next thing we'll talk about here, but I had to log into Facebook begrudgingly. And I don't think I've logged into Facebook in years. I really don't even remember the last time I logged in. And it was all rusty and there was cobwebs everywhere and it smells funny in there. I did not like it. I just went in, did what I had to do. I followed up on a couple of, I think I followed up like when people want to like you and you got to click the thing back. I think I did that for some people who knew who their names were, and then left because it's weird in there. I don't like it. But yeah, let's talk about the project. So we're going to have 2 projects coming up, 2 patch batches. The one of them is already up and running. So let's go take a look and see where it is at. I haven't looked at anything for most of the afternoon. I've been working on stuff over here. So the first one we'll look at is the Gun Channels patch batch. And that is this. And that is, we are about to do the 2A patch batch. And Travis comes along and goes, hey, can I get in on that? And I was like, oh, snap. No, of course, because what the hell? But it's like, we should do something for gun channels, right? And so we're going to do 10 gun channels, basically the people that have been doing live shows. And you'll get a patch, a batch of one of each patch, 10 of them. And it's $80. So it's $8 a piece shipped. It ain't free, but that's how the math comes out. It's about $3,500 worth of patches and then a shit ton of shipping. And then hopefully a little gravy to pay for taxes and fees and stuff. I'm not good at that stuff, and that's why I'm always in the hole, because I've always got a little bit of extra or whatever bills that I don't think about, and then all of a sudden, you know, the thing costs me money instead of coming. I try to make these things break even if I can. I don't really try to make them make money. So even at that, they come out to $80 for a set. But in case some of us are cheap out there or not able to throw $80 at this, I've set it aside. So there's going to be 100 of each. 50 of them go to this 50 patches, sets or whatever. And then there'll be, I think this comes out to 70 or something if people claim these. So if you want to just grab a random one, or if you want to grab 3 random ones, you can for less money, and then still contribute to the cause or whatever. And, but I think I figured this out so that everybody involved will still get like at least 40. So that'll kind of depend. I have to say 40 because that's the minimum. Depending on how many of these get sold or get snatched up or whatever I say, then there might be, you know, in other words, if I got to give out a couple of randoms and it's like Clover and Gary's and Mr. Knives, then like there's going to be one less of theirs, right? But if I don't have to give out a budget, he's going to have one more. So I can't really say everybody's going to have the same amount because I don't know what how the cards will all fall. But I think we figured it out so that if 50 people jump in on this, we're done. These guys will all get, is there gals? No, these are all sexists. So these guys will all get a bunch of patches so that they're, you know, got some resource. They've got something they can either trade or sell or raise funds with, or just give them out like a big shot, whatever they want to do. And then the 50 people that get in on it, you know, they have a patch batch. And I guess we'll see. I guess I forget now. I think those cards, they weren't insignificant. Those cards, I think, were like $75. But I also had to get, no, I only got 100 of them. So I don't know. I might do some sort of a set. I guess I'd only have to get 50 of these. It doesn't always help, though, because of the shipping and setup and shit. But anyway, we'll figure out how much it would be to maybe set up some sort of a collector card and do numbered sets. It used to tell us who was the backer so that we could go look, but I'm not going to dig into the behind the scenes because it'll probably show you their names and stuff or their addresses and that kind of shit. So we know that 4 people are already in on it. So 1 through 4 are already snagged. Thanks to those people. It's only running for 2 weeks. I didn't think about it, but sorry if it doesn't click with your paychecks or your ability to throw money at something like this. The good news is that if you're not able to jump on it, I think with 50 people, I don't want to say it's a sure thing, but it's not a lot of participation needed to make this thing happen. That's why I didn't try to get everybody 100 extra patches. That would have made it thousands of dollars more. So with it being smaller like this, I think the shipping should be down a bit. And anyway, everybody will have 40 of them. So if you don't get in on it and it still happens, then you could potentially still make a set. You'll potentially be able to either grab it from one of their stores or win some kind of prize or something from one of their live shows. It depends on how they want to get rid of their stuff, but you might be able to just sweet talk them or trade them. Who knows? So hopefully, and that's part of the goal also, right, is to have some fun with it and create some sort of, I don't know, fun and collaboration and chat or something new. So we'll see what people do with it, how they want to play with it. It's possible that like Rick will just throw away all his other patches. So the only way you could possibly have a Rick patch is if you would participate in this. Think how valuable Rick patches would be. What if he just said he threw them all away and then he kept them, right? Kept them in some sort of a safe or something so that nobody sees them. And then every once in a while you see a Rick patch show up on eBay, right? And he starts, financing his next adventures, doing something like that. I don't know, might happen. In addition to this, we're about to start a 2A patch batch. So very similar to what we did last year around this time. But the goal is to have the patch batch up and running, which I'm just waiting on 2 people to reply. So we'll have it up and running before too long, but have it up and running so that it can last for maybe a couple of 3 weeks and then end so that we can get the patches made and everything to get shipped and returned and out to everybody before the gun rights policy conference. So we'll, looks like we're pretty good on our way. We've got, let me try to do it in order. Guntube.org, CloverTac, 2A Fund. So all 3 of them are from last year. They're coming back. Then 2A4E, Tony's coming back. We've got what am I missing? Trying to think of who all I've sent emails to and then who all has replied. And then I'm trying to get them mixed up, not get them mixed up with the ones from the Gun Channels one. The other big one, though, is Guns and Gadgets. So Jared will get a patch made. And then, Charlie, riding shotgun with Charlie, finally getting his patch. I really wanted to get him in on the last one, but 12 is kind of pushing it. I forget how much that cost. $10,000 worth of patches or something crazy. So, I don't really want to try to do more than 12. I'm not Alan Anchor, I'm just me. So, we'll have a couple of more that, and not everybody emails, right? So some people are texters, some people are phone callers. I'm an emailer. So, email, wait a little while. If I don't hear nothing, text, wait a little while, call them on the phone kind of crap. So I'll have to eventually nail down the last couple. And then that one will go live. And like I said, I'm going to try to make that one end on July 9th. So we'll see if I can get it reply back from everybody before to leave us enough time. Then we'll have that one end on July 9th because of Montana Firearms Act, right? The Screw You NFA Act of Montana. And Arizona something? Arizona concealed carry? Is it considered? No, it's not Arizona concealed carry. Or if it is, it's just the passing of it. It's not no, it's Arizona. Anyway, there's 2 things that happen on the 9th, and there's pretty much a blackout. Nothing else really happens. Interesting 2A-wise in July there. I don't know if anybody's listening. I'm just blabbing to the wall now, and that's boring to me. So we had a great chat earlier. If you were listening, Walt jumped in, Grump jumped in, and I want to shout out his goddaughter's. How am I going to get to that? GoFundMe, I guess. His goddaughter is going through some rough times, and if you're interested, I think this is it. How do I get back to just the Open to fundraiser. Yeah. This is Crump's goddaughter. So if you're interested in Abel, I can definitely tell you that a bunch of people throwing $5 or $10 at something can add up. And you can, I don't have to tell you about how appreciative that would make a family who's dealing with something rough. Right now it's got 177 people in. I threw my $5 in today. I'm not rich, but I can throw $5 in for something like that. And it's on up to, it's on its way to 16,000, on its way to 50 is their goal. All right, so if you spread that around, that can help too. That's how these socials work. You never know. People are out there. Money means different things to different people. People that got $5 to spend don't even think twice, see something like that. Again, you throw it on a social platform for the people you know, but the people you don't know who see something like that, it's obviously valid. That's how you really amplify or give it as much potential as possible. So we'll continue to help out as much as we can and encourage people to do that. It's one of the one of the nice things about the good consequences of social. All right, with that, everybody's leaving because I threw a link to a GoFundMe out there. Already ran the hell out of here. So we'll throw the link to another way so you can throw $80 at Gun Channels people. I'll throw this over here. Boom. Once you're participating, the people that participate for $80, right? These 4 people and whoever else, by the way, this is a fixed goal. So this will not happen unless it reaches the goal. I don't want a whole bunch of money and I don't want to deal with that. So it's either going to happen or it ain't. And it's only the 50. Once those 50s are gone, it's over because I can't do this at 200 or 150. Like these kind of projects, there's no slush room. When you try to do slush room is when I go into the massive credit card debt. Can't do the slush because I could put steps. It could go from like 4,000 to 10,000 to 21,000 or whatever the numbers are. But you really have to hit right in the sweet spot to make it happen. And then there are no extras. And the goal is to throw the extras over here. So any amount of slop that there might be in a normal project is intentionally going to the creator. So anyway, for those reasons, this one may or may not happen. But anyway, so I want to throw that link out there if you want to be part of this. And for all the people that consider this e-bagging, what the fuck are you listening to this shit for? This is all I do. I live for e-bagging. I constantly wake up every day to figure out how to wring that sponge of those sugar mamas wallets tighter and tighter every day. It's literally the only thing that anybody ever thinks about on the other side of the internet from you is how to steal money from your pocket. So if you're not one of them people, then consider supporting Gizzard Gary, who does a show every Friday called Foul Territory, which I consistently spell wrong because I can't spell for shit. And then I want to say Early Watch. I'm never going to get it right. And nobody's out there, otherwise they'd be helping me. But he does a show on Sundays as well. Then you got Rick doing 2 shows a week, Rick's Life as I See It on Saturday, and Shooting with Disabilities on Wednesday. Got Knives out there who consistently ran a live lobby on Gun Channels for years and made Gun Channels what it is, well, what it was. Got Budget, who consistently quirks me on Friday. He probably does other shows that I don't know about anymore, but he did for a while there a consistent show on some other night of the week, like Tuesday or something, that he didn't quirk me. You got Jimmy kicking out there. Maybe he's going to get Early Watch going. If he had a whole bunch of patches he could work with, maybe that would help him. So we're going to try to do that. You never heard of Clover? He does stuff. So haven't heard back what he's thinking on this one, but Clover is also in the other one. So you're going to get Clovers of Clover patches coming. Travis, the guy that started this whole thing, I think he's just going to do this logo. Saturdays, Caliber Corner. Oh, I guess I should have said Clover is probably still quirking me right now. That's probably why there's only 5 people watching me right now, because of Clover stealing my viewers right now. And then, I don't know, he does other shows at this point that I don't remember when they are, Mondays and Fridays. And then, stuff all the time on all the different platforms. So he's doing stuff all the time. Travis, Caliber Corner on Saturdays. Ghost, Tuesdays. Armed Citizens podcast. And then obviously the other projects that he's working on and content coming out and all the time from different areas. Then you got Hit or Miss. So Mike, always known as Night Strike, has created GunTube, but then in his spare time, he also does the Tuesday podcast for, I don't know, years now. That's where Smeggy came from. Before Smeggy melted, that's where he was created. One time it snowed in Hit or Miss, and then they accumulated some of the snow into little piles and then stuck some of the charcoal out of Night Strike's heart and put him in the eyes of the little snowman. And that's how Smeggy was born. A lot of people don't know that origin story, but that's how it went. Years later, Smeggy was standing there minding his business. Oro came along and ate him, and then he had to pee him out later because when you eat a snowman, you pee him out. And then Night Strike had to do the whole thing fucking over again. It was annoying. He won't let anybody hear the end of it. It's pretty messed up. And then there's this question mark, and I think that's where I started this whole thing. So the 50 people, holy shit, it is going to be 50 people that are going to be participating in this thing are going to pick. Maybe I'll make it the first 10. I think I'm going to change it to the first 10 so that it's not insane. The first 10 people who participate, and that means the next 6 people can still get in on this. The first 10 are going to pick what the 10th patch is. So there you go. And I don't even care what it is. So whatever they pick is what it'll be. So there's a whole bunch of people that are butthurt or sore britches or got their under britches in a ruffle because they're not one of the 9 in this list already, because either they don't do live shows or they don't do live shows enough. I mean, sure, none of these people have 1,109 shows. Hardly any of them have 109 shows, but they're at least out there trying. It's like the little kids that have got the big foam thing and they're kicking out in the water. They're doing that. They're not just sitting there on the side of the pool with their feet in the water with the little things on their arms like this. Like, that don't count. Yeah, you're wet. You ain't doing nothing. These people are all out there kicking. So that's why they're in here. But we're going to let the people that support them the most, the first, pick who that other 10th one's going to be. And that's what it's going to be. So you can buy a single random patch if you want for $15. You can grab the random. Oh, you know what? I think we ended up talking about 2A patch. I don't know how I got back on this one. Gun Channels people. It's tucking us back in. I don't have the other one to open, otherwise I would. So anyway, we got the 2A patch coming and this one, and because no one's interacting over here, as you can see, I'm assuming I'm talking to the wall, and my dog looks at me funny when I do that.